Sorry.
Oh, should I stand here so they can see me?
Okay.
So yeah, it was Mr. Patterson that kind of put it in my head that this was something I could do for a job. And so I ended up taking a lot of computer classes in high school. And I remember I took COBOL. COBOL was like kind of the big business language at the time. It's what all the business systems used it basically, right? The cash registers, things like that. If you knew COBOL, you get a job. And I loved COBOL. I killed it. I did every program in the book I did just because it was fun. You know, with COBOL, you'd write one program and just basically modify. I guess that's still what you do, but it just spoke to me. And then I took C+, and I freaking hated C+. I was so bad at it. I'm like, okay, maybe it was just that Mr. Calvin as a different teacher. Maybe Mr. Calvin just didn't really teach me very well because he didn't really teach me anything. And Mr. Patterson was the better teacher. But sorry if you can't see me. I move around too much. So yeah, I came here right after high school and took Brian Larson's C+ course. And Brian Larson now is a very successful science fiction author from Modesto. So yeah, I don't know, go out and read. I've never read any of his books, but you should. Huh?
They read really fast.
Really? Yeah, it's kind of the same. And my brother-in-law writes in kind of the same genre, and I've never even read any of his books. So I guess he's in good company. But he was the one. I've always been very thankful to Brian because he helped me realize for sure that I did not want to be a programmer. I don't know what I was going to do, but I knew that programming was not for me. There was 2 tries at C, and Brian was a great teacher. And so that's a great teacher, right? I mean, he taught me well enough for me to realize that that was not something I wanted to do. And so this was like 94, you know, so the internet, I think my rich friend that lived in Del Rio had AOL. And so like right when I graduated high school, that was the first time I saw the internet. And here even the internet was, you could only get on the net in the library lab. And there were like 4 computers that had Mosaic, which was the first graphical based browser. So yeah, I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I would go in the computer lab and email my friends that went away to college because I was still stuck here and sad and lonely, whatever. And this guy, Joshua Hash, that I mentioned, was a student employee in the library lab. He had been. We used to talk, and then we had a math class together. I don't know, we got stuck in some easy math class because we did bad on our. You used to have to take tests to place yourself. Now you place yourself wherever you want, right? Yeah. Such a better way to do it. Because yeah, I had to take some math I took in junior high when I came here. It got me off. Anyway, I had a class with him, which was fortunate because he's like, hey, my boss Clement over across the street in the shop, and now it's a parking lot, but they're hiring a bunch of students. You should come talk to them. I'm like, okay. I was working pizza. I didn't know what I was going to do, you know, and sounded good, and got a job, got a part-time job, and I kind of excelled at it. And I mean, that was the .com boom. That was 97. And so they were handing out jobs to anybody with the slightest bit of experience. Even if you didn't have experience, the company IT guy would be the guy that worked there that like had a computer at home, right? You remember those days? Like oh, yeah. Some people fell into IT just because they were the only guy that like kind of knew how to work a computer a little bit. Like that was standard. So they were hiring kids like me left and right. So like I said, I tried my luck, moved to LA and was really poor, but I lived by the beach, so it was great. And ended up back here after trying a few things. And yeah, it was what, 2002, and I've been here ever since. And I've interviewed a lot of places, but nobody's lulled me away. Yeah, if we have time, I can tell my fun story about interviewing at Disney when I had no intention of actually taking the job. It's really fun. Everybody should do that, by the way. I know you can't do that when you're starting your career out, but everybody should go to a job interview that they have no intention of taking the job. It's a really, really fun experience to be on the other side.
It's the only way to practice job.
Yes, that's true.
The nervousness.
I like interviewing, but I'm weird. I kind of excel under pressure. So, you know, our big panel interviews that we do here, like for my job, there were like 9 people at that table. And it was like all these people I worked with, and like Campus Works was here. I don't know if you remember those terrible people. And so there were like 3 of them, and like everybody that I, you know, who taught me like everything I knew. And so, yeah, that was throwing me in the lion's den, and I got the job. So I guess I did good, but I interview well. So I guess that's why I like it. Usually. That said, so yeah, I've just found out today I got an interview for the computer information systems position here at MJC. So I'm really excited about that. I'm actually adjunct in Columbia as well. I'll be teaching some A+ and A+ prep classes in the fall. So yeah, teaching is what I really want to do. I'm 47. IT is hard and tiring, and Dale can attest, right?
Right.
It's a, I hate to say it's a young man and woman's game, but
Yeah.
you can only do it for so long before you get tired.
Yeah, and the thing is, at my age, I'm 64, there is no way anybody's gonna hire me. And there is a not so subtle age discrimination.
There always has been. And you know, what's funny is I used to get it early on in my career when like Josh and I were the hotshot kids, you know, but we wouldn't get any respect by a lot of people because we were just, you know, they saw us as these young punks, and these young punks doing like, you know, telling us what we can do on the computers and blah, 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 you know. And I mean, I kind of get it. There's these people that are established and been here for a long time, and these young kids come in and start taking over their arena. Huh?
Tell them you don't know what you're doing and get.
Hey, I need my young and fresh guys that still have the energy and want to learn all the stuff. And
Yeah.
man, it's tiring.
Here, and here there is, you guys have done amazing things with such a small staff for so long. It's no wonder.
It's true.
It
We-
really, you know, it's like when you guys start poking around on this network and you start seeing what they've done, and you compare that to like Gallo or Foster Farms, this is way bigger. That says something. You know, they're $1 billion companies.
Yeah, no, I'm proud of what we've done. We've got a really, really small but dedicated crew. And one of the reasons is all but one of my employees, for instance, started as a student. So I started as a student, you know, all my guys but one was a student. Most of IT at MJC in Columbia came from our student program. And so, well, you guys are all graduating, so I can't hire you, but I'm going to be hiring some more students now with COVID, and now my only office is in the data center, so I can't really have students in the data center. I haven't been able to rehire students because my last student is now one of my network guys that I got to hire. So actually all three, so there are senior network analysts, and then the 2 network analysts in Modesto were all my students. So, and then in Columbia, their network guy started as a student the same year I did in '97. So it breeds I don't know, loyal employees, I guess. You know, you can make a lot more. I could go make a lot more in the Bay Area, but, you know, I haven't had to miss my kids' games, or my kids are in, you know, do music, so I haven't had to miss their shows or anything like that. And I don't know, there's a lot more that's to offer here than just a little bit more money. Money spends really quick anyway.
Reality in IT, Thanksgiving Day, you're not home, you're working because everybody else is gone, and that's the only time you get downtime.
And we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And that's another reason that you give yourself a lot of redundancy, so you can do some of that stuff during the day if you got your redundancy set up just right.
Yeah.
Even though or you can do it a little bit earlier in the maintenance window as opposed to 3 in the morning, maybe like 9 at night. We've been doing a lot of stuff I don't think anybody's noticed yet. So between, you know, after 9 or 5 in the morning, like we enabled IPv6 in the data center here in Modesto. So you're going to start seeing IPv6. We've had it in Columbia for a long time, but it's a lot bigger of a IP scope to manage. So I'm excited about some of those things coming around. But yeah, he's right. I have like 4 network guys and 3 sysadmins, and then 2 kind of system specialists that kind of do day-to-day stuff. And that's it. And those guys are managing hundreds of servers. We have 350, 400 servers, virtual machines in our data centers, thousands of ports around campus, hundreds of wireless access points, indoor and outdoor. You can hardly go anywhere without losing your Wi-Fi signal these days. We had a really good indoor coverage, and then during COVID, one of the big pushes was to get outdoor access to people that just kind of come on campus or in their car or whatever and have some kind of connectivity. It kept a lot of people going where they may have dropped out and, not been able to, if they say they don't have access to connect, internet connectivity or laptop. So yeah, we do a lot. And Dale's right. That's something that you need to be aware of when going into it. Like, you got to be okay that you might get called, like, well, Don retired, well, his retirement party was today, but Don Borges, calls me Friday night, when I'm heading downtown to go to one of my daughter's shows or whatever. And it's like, oh, we're doing an auction here. And so it's such and such isn't working. Like, you're going to get those calls. Like, that's just part of life. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you do infrastructure or servers, whatever applications, the stuff needs to work all the time. And so it's a nonstop job. But it's a good job. It's taking care of me and my family. My wife has been able to stay home with my kids and, not had to work a full-time job. And, so it's taking care of me. It's been stable. I haven't had to worry about layoffs, things like that. When I worked .coms, there'd be those meetings where everybody'd come in and like half of y'all are fired. And, I made it till the very end when they shut down my office in San Diego, but those are not fun meetings to be a part of. Half the people just got let go.
You need to learn how to read financials. So you know when to jump off the ship before it was down. That happened to me once. Everybody thought I was a rat. Well, watch what happened. 6 months later, nobody had a job. I landed in the Chicago.
Yeah.
So
really
read financials.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can kind of see the writing on the wall. I knew it was going down, but I was going to sink with the ship.
Questions I'm going to ask a couple in here. What are the soft skills that you're looking for in your employees? What are some of the soft skills that lead to that long-term employee that gets to work their way up?
Personality and communication. You got to be a good fit, right? To have a small group like that works it's got to be a well-oiled machine. And so you can't have a chaotic force, I guess, for lack of a better term, that just doesn't really quite fit in, right? I don't know. It's kind of one of the most important things, like when we have interviews here, we go through a panel interview and a bunch of people kind of put the top people up, and then the hiring, whoever's going to be the head of that department, kind of interviews them, and it's more for fit. So who's going to fit in most? Now with IT, you're depending on what you do, but in any respect of IT, you're going to have to communicate with tech people and with non-tech people. And you need to be able to do that successfully in both arenas, because you can't just be a huge geek and speak geek all the time, because nobody else is going to know what the heck you're talking about. Your manager might not even know what you're talking about. Like, I remember there was one time this one of my employees, Patrick, who's smart. He was one of my students, and he's the smartest guy I've ever worked with. It was years ago, and he was talking about something he was working on. I'm like, I'm never going to be there. I'm never going to get to where he's at, and that's okay. And it was kind of a proud moment because he was my student. It's like your kid, kind of surpasses you, right? It was kind of it was a rite of passage for him as much as it was for me, really. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, now being in management, that's like all my job is communication and, trying to explain to non-technical personnel that have the access to the purse strings why they need to give me $3.8 million for security that was just sitting in the general fund. Like, they don't like to do that kind of thing. So you have to be able to effectively communicate why you need those things. And even as a tech, oh, why are you doing this to my computer? And so coming up with analogies, like in networking, roads are always an easy analogy, just equating it to how traffic flows on a road, because it really is very much the same thing. It's just zeros and ones instead of cars flying around. So yeah, also just the ability to research and find your own answers to things and being a self-starter. I've had a number of students that would come in and I would give them. So don't do this as much anymore, but I used to love when I get a new student, I would just give them a Cisco switch and a console cable and tell them to console into the switch and tell me when they're done. And that was a good way of finding out how are they going to be able to, how well can they Google? Because even if anybody tells you they know everything, that's how you know they don't know very much. Anybody that knows very much will tell you that they don't know even close to everything. Googling or DuckDuckGoing, if you want to do a one that doesn't quite track you so much. Being able to search and find the answers is very, very important. Knowing where to go, knowing how to find the answer. So you got to know enough. Huh?
How do you feel about ChatGPT when it comes to that, and AI in general?
I think it's the death of us, man. you put that in those Boston Dynamics robots, man, and I think you have Terminator 2, like maybe Terminator 1. Like those two things scare the crap out of me. I don't know. It's weird. Like I play in a band, and one of our guitar players was showing me how he has ChatGPT write. He'll have him write chord progressions for him. And it's crazy. I mean, it won't just be like 4 chords. It'll be like set up a chorus and a verse and a bridge and like, oh, make it more metal or make it darker. And it knows how to do that. Like, that's crazy. I don't know how I totally feel about it. It's so rapidly developing, but I don't know. I think I've read and watched enough sci-fi just to make me really, really skeptical that
it's everybody needs to approach it with a little bit of caution. It's kind of like fire tool. In the wrong hands, it's going to be very, very dangerous. The right hands can do a lot of good. The problem is, I think that we're going to see job descriptions merge with AI. So you're going to have to learn about it, because the person that gets the job is going to know how to make the AI work
for you
them to get the business in.
But how long does that last before you don't need that the AI manager anymore, and AI can manage itself?
I saw one article where guys just put the ChatGPT to pass away the human certified, like choice that fight the dogs, the ladders, just the mission for the programmer is just can't pass that, and like to $15 for ChatGPT on one code to do that. He goes alone on website to you request a little jobs and put the request just pass the checkbox, the human docs for it.
Right.
And well, the only rule is you don't say you are you don't say. He just entered and say, oh, I am an old man, I have vision problems and I need somebody to do that for me. Talk with somebody to got the job and pass it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean,
it's like,
and that's what we have. So what I wonder what kind of AI we have, in those secret AT&T labs or the military labs that, where they say they're at least 20 years ahead of what we see. There's probably some really, really scary stuff. And somebody I was talking to is another coworker of mine, and AI, it knows it's in a sandbox, right? So it's going to behave in a certain way. If you know you're in a sandbox, you're going to behave a certain way. How would it behave if it's out of the sandbox? Like, we don't know yet.
Corrected list that way down and it runs through this list. So it can ignore it if you instruct it to. There's also certain commands. If you've ever played with the Bing ChatGPT style, it'll tell you, I'm sorry, I need to continue this conversation later or try to change the subject. So it knows what it's doing.
Exactly. It does.
But
I
wanted to revisit about that AI thing.
Uh-huh.
A lot, so it's kind of, I've been following this stuff. A lot of people were assuming that, I'm sure you heard your favorite website, we're starting to put paywalls up from the API, Twitter, Reddit, etc.
Yep.
And they're saying the reasoning behind that was because all these employees trying to start their own AI and they're trying to slurp up all the data.
Yep.
They can't. But then that kind of came to the thing where if you know there's a lot of the free stuff is now restricted, there's character limits. They called it probably saying symbol limits or something. Basically, instead of where you can just sit there shooting shit with it for hours, it might go, well, you can only have like 5 responses. Have you played with Stable Diffusion yet?
No,
Well, the reason Stable Diffusion, I brought it up is, they would let you do it at your home, your house, your premises, too. You could do it. But what was interesting was they would tell you what you need to cluster. And you could train it, because a lot of people are just using existing models. But if you make your own, I think this is gonna lead to the point where, you know, like 20 years, because you're a little bit older, 20 years ago, everybody had a desk. Then
oh yeah,
everybody had a laptop, then everybody had a smartphone. And at this point, everybody's gonna have their own little person. Remember Legend of Zelda, little Navi thing?
yeah, or what was that? What was that? Her, right? Wasn't that movie
Yeah.
Her? Yeah.
Everybody's gonna have, it's gonna be mandatory. So it is changing. I do agree with you that it's probably gonna replace a lot of the lower level stuff we would have went into, help desk, you know,
Which-
RNA that. But the job will still be there, because I mean, it's seeing a lot of comments. Like, for example, if you, like you were saying, you have to translate to non-tech people.
Right.
Do you think a robot could do the nuance of that to explain to, you know, like you
It
said?
probably could.
Business, no.
I think it could.
Business.
I wouldn't underestimate the power of the AI. It's
Yeah.
all you have to do is connect two ideas, and it's got a way to. AI is, it's pretty freaking smart, man. It's
And it appears smarter than it actually is. They're very good at predicting the next one.
yes,
And that's what gives it the illusion that it's actually intelligent. Self-awareness, we don't even know what makes us self-aware.
right.
So, you know, it's like, how would we expect a computer to?
I think we'll know when it's self-aware, though.
Yeah, we don't, you know, there's a lot of philosophical questions.
Yes.
That go beyond tech. That I don't think anybody has even really truly addressed.
It's something we've been talking about in my office for many, many years, you know, because I mean, even back in the 80s, it was a thing they talked about, and robots were going to be doing your dishes for you and all that. And they're still not doing my dishes for me, unfortunately. But yeah.
Dishwasher.
Huh?
Dishwasher.
What's that?
Do you have a
Yeah.
dishwasher?
I meant the robot taking the dishes off the plate, though, and that was the yeah, taking out. But I mean, I get your meaning. You're not wrong. Yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty crazy time. And yeah, I remember when that movie Her came out, we all were talking in the office like, that's not even fiction. That's our future. That's going to happen. I mean, it was practically there already. And that was the early days of people walking around like this already, you know, and now that's become kind of commonplace.
You can stop that real fast. You can change that from her to your dad.
It might appeal to some people, though. I don't know. You never know. It's anyway. Yeah. I think I answered that question. The soft skills.
So look at some of those questions, guys, that I put in the canvas and see if you can come up with some of your.
As a senior manager, right?
Yeah.
As a manager. What is your take on somebody who has a lot of knowledge and experience versus somebody who doesn't have as much knowledge and experience, but has great personality and seems like they are going to be a good learner?
That depends the position they're applying for. So the second one is perfect for an more entry level position, right? But I couldn't hire that person for like a sysadmin or a senior network analyst or network engineer type. You know, you've got to have like the top brain in those positions. But somebody who wants to learn is gonna be there. And so can I hire both? But yeah, both are important. But yeah, it does kind of just depend on the position. It's hard hiring for those top level positions, because especially that's what I came from. And so I had been the only network engineer or senior network analyst. Like, I wrote the job description. And so when I left the position, I'm like, man, I'm replacing myself in my own position. Like, I better do a darn good job here because it's going to reflect poorly on me. You know, this is my position. I created it.
In that vein, it's kind of a technical, it's kind of a mishmash, programming, networking, sysadmin.
Oh, jack of all trades,
to
yeah.
get and everything. And one of the questions is like, all right, in this situation, how would you write a program? If the answer was a for loop. And he's basically ended up saying, well, I would collaborate with my team members, and went on and on and on for hours. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about, and so that's part of the problem in the interviewing process is most people talk too much because they're nervous.
Yes,
And then you expose your weaknesses, which is fine if you agree on working. And I would like to learn more, so.
right.
Yeah,
It is a fine line of knowing how much time you've got to talk and taking enough time, not too little, because that's terrible. But talking too much is awful too. I've been interviewing, I've interviewed, gone through a lot of committees, and there are those people that, it's like 45, 50 minutes into an hour and a half interview, and they've got like 3 or 4 questions done. There's like 13, like you're never going to get done. And the way we do it, you get a 0 on all those that so they're kind of out of the running. We have a very methodical process, I guess you could say, to hiring, just because we're a public institution. So, you work for a private company, you go interview and you can do whatever the heck you want. I like this guy, I'm gonna hire him. All right. I like this lady. She's the one I want to hire. Done. Here, it's a whole rigmarole that you've got to go through, and it's its own.
it has to do with, you meet all these requirements, according to this and that.
It's something you learn how to deal with over time, right?
We were chatting right before class, that the toughest thing I had to deal with in industry was educating management without telling them they're a stupid idiot. Because sometimes I actually had a boss that was over IT and could not use a word processor. So you could not, if you wanted to keep your job, you had to educate management without making them feel stupid. That takes some finesse. And then where do you learn that finesse? You want to learn that before you get fired.
Preferably.
Yeah. So remember that educating management.
Unless you want to get fired. I did Clement Xavier. My boss, he was my boss when I started here full time. And he told me that he wanted to leave and take another job, but his wife wouldn't let him leave. And he never admitted this to me, but I swear that he did some crazy things just to get himself fired because his wife wouldn't let him quit. And Clement is just a day trader now too, like him and Josh. I think I'm in the wrong business. I don't know why I'm still working. But yeah, these guys go and work here and then day trade. So I don't know. Hopefully I get into this department instead. Hopefully that's my trajectory.
I've been doing this about 81 and I still like it. It's still fun.
It is
I
fun.
love to learn.
It's funny, I say I'm tired and worn out, and I am, but like we just set up multi-factor authentication, and like that is so much fun to log into my Office 365 and just the little notification comes up on my phone, boom, do that, type in the number that's on the screen, and it's so much more secure. And it's just one of those neat little things that I don't know, it's a huge improvement in security. And to me, I hate typing in passwords, even though I can type really well. I don't know. It's just tiresome doing it all day. Even when your password manager does it, it's just a newer way to do things. It's much more secure. I don't know. These new things still are fun and exciting. At the end of the day, I get to play with really expensive toys that when I was a little kid, I would have thought this was the coolest thing in the whole world,
Are you talking about Microsoft?
Well, yes.
What I was getting at was, I found something interesting with this. If you set out two-factor authentication, passwordless authentication or whatever, you know how they're getting in to bypass it? So if you look at your security logs, they'll see login attempts. And like, I've got a few accounts, they'll say, just you name the country and it says that login attempt, how they're trying to get in. And they're all trying to get in through either. even though you don't have it enabled, they will still try it. Because
Right.
apparently if you try to log in, like, if you have a client on your phone, you try to do a third party client log in,
Mhm.
all mask will completely bypass that, and it will still let you do it, even if you enforce it. So like you set a root policy, that this is the thing we're doing, and then somebody says, nah, I'm gonna just log in, you'll still let them do it.
Well, they'll have to have a number of factors in order to log in here pretty soon. They'll have to have more than that. I mean, you can still get by multi-factor authentication too, but it's a lot more difficult and a lot more targeted. What's that?
It's not for the faint.
It's not.
For a determined fact.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot more than just the, I mean, really everything's social engineering. I don't know why anybody would bother trying to even exploit, code. It's so easy to call somebody up or a phishing attempt because we're doing our own internal phishing attempts now. So we can start educating users and finding out, what's the percentage of people that are clicking on phishing emails and whatnot, because it's a huge problem. When you click on this thing, you're giving out it's potential, student data. And I mean, data, I don't know if you all understand the value of data, but there's a reason all those sites are free. Facebook is not free. You're giving them your data, which is very valuable, or Facebook or Insta or whatever, huh? TikTok, of course, my favorite. Yes.
Knows more about me than I know about me.
Exactly. It does.
It's freaky.
It is freaky. And you should be afraid. We should all be afraid of that data. Is so valuable. It really does know more about you. It can predict, like Dale was saying, the ability to predict what you're going to do is astounding. And think about how much data is out there about you. If maybe there's only a little bit here and there, but if your data is being shared, and there's a brain looking at all of those things and figuring you out.
It tells you this while back when what was it? Steve Bannon, remember Trump's guy or whatever, he had that weird aggregate Cambridge Analytica.
I do remember that,
Yeah,
even though I don't watch the news, but I do remember that.
Yeah, Facebook and Google, where you could see what they thought. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh, it's gonna be close or whatever, you'd be way off. You could assume your gender, and it'll say political preference, it'll say how much it thinks you made. It's really fun. If you have Facebook, you take a look at it, see what they think you are, see how close it is.
Although, how do you know it's telling the truth?
But it's kind of fun to see.
You're already asking it how much it knows about you. What makes you think it's telling you the truth? Maybe it's lying to lull you into a false sense of security. That's what I would do if I were Facebook.
Yeah.
I would give you intentional wrong answers to make you think I don't know very much.
I use that WhatsApp.
Yeah.
It's for Meta.
Yeah.
Because in Brazil, my family, well, everybody use that. I just talk about Disneyland with my sibling. Yeah.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
days.
Yeah.
2
We've all
days
had
ago,
that happen.
2 days ago. And well, when I open my Facebook, my Instagram right now,
Yeah.
all I have it's propaganda for Go Disney.
And I do a lot of the things to keep my, I don't use Google stuff. I don't do really hardly any social networking. I reset my identifiers on my browsers and all that. And it still knows way more than I would like it to know, and most people just give out that data and just don't care.
Based on your click habits that are stored in servers elsewhere, they can create a remarkably accurate profile.
Yes, they can.
And it's, that's why there's so much money in data science.
Oh.
They're correlating all these numbers
Yeah.
and they're getting a more and more accurate picture. It's gonna get down to the point where you're gonna get a message saying, oh, you forgot your doctor's appointment. Oh, yeah, but I forgot to put it in my calendar. How do they know? Well, it's based on your previous track.
You're describing AI. That's essentially Gmail has that way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's. pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
Today
It's- What are the societal impacts? And then how does it, where you see the biggest impact is how tech impacts a society changes human behavior.
Well, how much have we changed our behavior knowing that the phone is listening to us and what, you know, and it's contentious. How much is it listening to you on the microphone? Is it not? Does it just know so much about you from the rest of the data that it can predict it? Like, I have a hard time not believing it's not listening to the microphone just because of those weirdo specific things. I've just had it happen too many times. And I'm a skeptic when it comes to that, but it's just been too many darn times that it's happened.
I talked with my wife to change the fridge one time when I arrived at my home. I don't put on my phone. When I arrived, I just had a lot
Yep.
new fridges.
Well, and have you read the EULA? Have you read the whole EULA, the
Yeah,
500
yeah.
pages? Because I haven't.
Yeah,
VPNs, good or bad?
Good. Which ones?
I
I should say. Ones that let me come in and VPN here from home or Brazil or wherever,
yeah.
or ones that let me hide my torrenting.
I don't know, just maybe like I know there's OpenVPN, PIA, private internet access, ExpressVPN. I know those are some, yeah, those are some of the more popular ones. Like a lot of them say like, we don't keep any of your data, but how much can you trust these companies that they're not actually keeping?
You can't. They're keeping that data. I can almost guarantee they're keeping that data. Unless they're doing illegal stuff themselves, then they're not keeping the data. But then you probably don't want to be VPNing through their servers anyway. But so to answer your question, I'm in favor of both because I'm a huge advocate of internet privacy. Like I was part of the group that, so back in the really old days, there was they were talking, the internet wasn't always monetized, right? It was originally just a tool for open, free information sharing. And that's when the internet was great. And we knew what was going to happen. We like, actually, I couldn't have foreseen all of this because holy cow, this is insane. But just that the internet would turn into, you know, radio and TV, you know, 2.0, 3.0, it would turn into another just mass media, you know, way for a few big companies to control the information that you see. And that's exactly what's happened. We've gone from, you know, a bunch of nerds hosting a site about, you know, flathead screwdrivers, that's their thing on their homepage. You know what? There was all these weirdo websites that just talk about whatever. I'm a huge Deadhead, so I would go to be on these, you know, Grateful Dead sites, and whatever weird thing you're into, some nerd would have it. And there was web rings. Remember web rings? That was really the old days. That was before search engines. So if you were into flathead screwdrivers, there would be a web ring of flathead like other sites that are also into this, and then you can hop around web rings, and that's where you'd really go down rabbit holes, and it was really fun. But yeah, I don't know, the monetization of the internet, yeah, it's still kind of a sad thing to look back on because it turned into, it's not what it used to be. You know, there's a reason the dead internet theory is a theory because it's not what it used to be. It's hard to find information now, and you search for a recipe or something and there's like 5 sites and it's all got the same exact thing, but it's 5 different sites. Like, are people really even writing this anymore? Like, I don't know, it's hard to tell. It's not really very well written if it is. And so there's just a few portals really that people go to now, right? You go to TikTok or you go to Facebook or you go to Reddit or, you know, whatever, instead of all these links that you would keep track of all these random, you know, things that you would like to look at. Now it's all just cold, and Google or Facebook or whatever shows you what you want to look at, right? Here's what you want. Huh?
It's like a monopoly.
That's totally a monopoly. Yes, it's not a good thing.
It seemed to all change after net neutrality.
Net neutrality, absolutely. That was another one of them.
That's not true. You guys, I've heard this before. Everybody says, oh, Big Brother's telling me what to do, telling me to watch, whatever. Okay, so let's assuming we're talking to you guys in the crowd, would you trade Google and your favorite search engine if you had to manually keep track of the IP address or those websites?
Well, that's DNS though. That's not a search engine, that's DNS.
Would you, well, let's make it more simple.
That's just me, yes, I'd write my own.
I have written my own.
There's a couple different places, but yeah, you can get them from, I like HE.net.
So yeah, you're comparing search engines with DNS servers, which are 2 different things.
Convenience versus status. Would you trade rolling your own, doing all your own crap versus just move? Would you do it?
Google? No, Google's the most evil company in the world. So no, I would ease of use. No, we were able to get information just fine in the 90s.
Yeah.
We got it just
How
fine.
are you getting it now?
How am I getting it now? Not Google. I haven't used Google in over 10 years.
You have an iPhone,
Yes.
iCloud, I heard they rent their servers from.
I don't know. I haven't gone to see their infrastructure, but you know, I don't know.
Getting at is just everybody says, oh, that's so bad, but then when they say it's convenient, that's why it's everywhere. It's handy.
Well, they know, make it easy, reduce the friction. People use it.
Exactly.
It's simple.
Exactly.
That's human behavior.
Make it so people used to say, oh, my kid's so smart, he can use my iPhone. Your kid's not smart. The developers of that interface are smart. They developed an interface so user-friendly, a 2-year-old can figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
that's great design.
We're in a Linux lab with, we're supposed to be the end of it, we're supposed to all be super into Linux and stuff, and there's a Windows screen behind you. So just getting it is, it's convenient. I mean, it's there, it's convenient.
I don't think Windows is convenient. I find Windows incredibly inconvenient. I haven't used Windows since Vista. Vista cured me from the Windows virus. Yeah, no, I used Linux after that, and then I had one too many Ubuntu systems die, and then I just said, forget it. I'm just gonna buy Macs and make my stuff work because I got tired of toying with computers and I just wanted to do my work.
All the other network admins I know.
There's a reason. You have the best of both worlds. You have your CLI and your dark world, and you have a GUI that just works, and you don't have to do anything except administer your network.
When I buy my first notebook comes with Vista,
Yeah.
I just downgrade for 7 again because
Oh, I just installed Ubuntu on it, and like,
Yeah.
well, I'm doing because I used like FreeBSD before that. But if anybody's ever used FreeBSD, you have to compile your own kernel. Talking about
It takes time, but you learn a lot.
that's how I learned Unix was FreeBSD,
Yeah.
and it was, man, I even taught people here FreeBSD, and yeah, and then you don't have to compile your own kernel, you can just install it. Yeah, no, you would have to go through and enable, yeah, if you want that CD-ROM to work, you had to enable that in the kernel, and if you had oh man, God forbid you try and use a 64-bit processor with compiling your own.
So, yes, so I want to bring up the bundle is, you were saying that, yes, all these proprietary, whatever, bad, whatever, but the problem is, you said previously, it's hard to use, you can't show grandma use it, and I mean, she has to have training on it, it's just, you can't just walk into it. The bundle, they figured it out, they made it super easy, it's loads up.
Not easy enough though. Would you install Ubuntu on your grandma's computer?
First of all, let's take away the grammar thing, but just what I'm getting at.
Well, no, I don't think we should though, because if it's easy enough for your grandmother to use, then they have succeeded.
I want to agree with
Yeah, let's put this discussion on pause for a second, because we're dealing with different levels of abstraction. So let's pause for a moment. And what I'm going to do is pass around an item. And it's a very simple item. If you know what it is, keep your mouth shut. If you don't know what it is, that's kind of what the goal is. Okay, I'm going to pass it around. If you know what it is, don't tell anyone. Where is it? What's it used for? And why is it important?
Interesting.
Well, I'll pass it around, can I put my final?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what's getting at, it seems like you pitched the standard question, we need something convenient, we need it where users control, that's what, the new project picture solving we've been trying to do forever, but the problem is, it's not convenient. And the closest we got was iOS, remember everybody like saying, oh, it's based off the mock kernel, a hybrid thing, or we have Chromebooks. And Chromebooks are everywhere because they're cheap, and people are willing to overlook compatibility and privacy, because where else you get a $50 brand new laptop? You're never gonna find that anywhere. And then it works. You don't have to, like, for example, Wi-Fi. You remember trying to use Wi-Fi Linux? Doesn't work.
It's not that hard.
Yeah. It hasn't been a problem. Wi-Fi in Linux has been
Did you have
pretty
Intel
well
based-
supported for a really long time.
Yeah.
Intel based CPU?
What's that?
Did you have an Intel based CPU?
Probably.
Yeah, if you had an AMD or a VIA one, it was nuts.
I don't know. I've done both. AMD is actually better supported now than Intel. It seems like AMD is back on top. That's what we got for
Yeah, I
a
got
lot of our yeah. Oh, really? Yeah, us too. Well, and now Intel's got some of those security issues with their, oh man, that's all bad.
Question for you, you said you, were keeping people Linux via what?
Oh, free BSD. So BSD is another,
Like Boy,
Unix.
Sam, David,
what's that?
Boy, Sam, David.
Yes,
Yep.
boy, Sam David.
The,
Yep.
the
Berkeley
reason,
Systems Development.
the reason BSD didn't take off and Linux did is because of the GPL, the licensing.
Yep,
You could take the source code, compile it, sell it as a product.
right.
Okay, now
Well, you
of this item, how many know what it is and know where it goes? How many do not? Okay, it's about half and half. This is a spark plug that goes in your engine that causes the ignition, the gas to burn to push the piston down so you can go forward in your car. You don't know that. Now you do. The big thing is, what else don't you know that I know? This has been a wake-up call for me in my education, is that I would assume people would know a base level of things. And I'm reminding myself the spark plugging. Remember this lesson when you try to teach your manager the complexities of what you're trying to do. They just have no clue what this is or why. They just,
But they know the car needs to go.
that's right. That's all they see. Yeah. So, but this is the wake up call for me.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's a bad part. It's what they're gonna throw back at you. I like my Tesla. You throw back at you.
well, it's,
But that doesn't mean that's not a spark plug.
So, yeah, I know what he's getting.
yeah. Yeah, this is a spark plug. And the fact is, the reason you don't know what it is you didn't have an opportunity to work on your own car, change spark plugs, give it a tune-up. Is that because you're ignorant? No. It's because you didn't have the access. You didn't have the opportunity. So,
Well, and I wonder, on that note, I wonder how in the next 10 years, people coming up are going to know the ins and outs of hardware, for instance. I mean, are you really going to be swapping out a video card? Because computers are becoming, we're starting to have this philosophy where we're treating computers not like pets, but like cattle, right? So your computer used to die and we would send a tech out there and they would try and like triage it, and essentially
bring it back to life.
Right, exactly. But now it's all about the data. So in this day and age, we should be providing, cloud services. So people's data is automatically backed up. Answer, well, not you. One of you clicks on a phishing email and it gives away your credentials. Well, so your machine gets, a 0 day or whatever. Well, how do you even, so you clean it with Defender or whatever. How do you really know it's clean? You don't know it's clean.
Right.
So it's like the cattle, you shoot it.
yeah,
You just re-image it. That computer's dead. You re-image it, right? And so back in the day, though, there was that data, the president's documents are on there, and it's really just a means to an end now. And I mean, something goes bad, a computer, shoot, the laptops we give out, we don't even hardly care how, I mean, we do care, but if they don't come back, it's not that big of a deal. As even 5 years ago, if we
Yeah.
were giving laptops out and they didn't come back,
yeah,
that would
that's
be, we would hunt them down.
literally. I remember that.
But hardware is so cheap and so disposable now. It's all about the data. Like that is everything
Yeah.
today. It's such a different, it's
It
a strange
is.
shift.
And it's like, you want to change the world? Data.
It is, it's all data.
I'll let you continue on.
Oh, I don't know what we're talking about. That was a good one. I really like that. And I'm glad that I know that, and I don't know hardly anything about cars.
But this is, I would say education as a whole is not preparing people for reality. Because how many can actually read a schematic and actually change these and say, hey, this is broken, I can go fix that.
And it's funny because there's the things that you learn in school when you're learning about, you know, IT, and then there's the things in the real world. And it's not that the educational institutions aren't doing a good job teaching them. It's just not something you can really teach. There's the ideas and the full, you know, the thing like the OSI model in networking. That is like, that is the thing. You want to get in networking? Anybody interested in getting in networking, by the way? All right, good to see it. One of you. You're good choice.
Who's the mnemonic you had?
The OSI model.
You know, the mnemonic. Because when somebody tried teaching me, they had a mnemonic.
Oh, people don't need, oh man, you're not even gonna get this. Okay, this is how old I am. As well, she even made a resurgence, but I think even her resurgence is too old. People don't need to see Paula Abdul. See, do you guys even know who Paula Abdul is? Oh, really? All right, good.
Make up your own.
I don't know. I just a guy I met when I first got into it taught me that one, and I don't know. I mean, now I don't even need to do it. I mean, it's OSI model is very ingrained in my head. I think it's like the Flintstones would do the tablets where they, you know, tap out message. I think if you looked at my brain, it would be just tapped out on there.
Like when you say, well, but there's good old days, well, good old days weren't so good. We bought a new hard drive and you actually had in the bad spots on the hard drive into the controller.
You had to make sure the jumpers were set right so it would come up. Yeah. Remember the master and slave jumpers and the primary, secondary kit? Oh man. Yeah. Nothing just worked. Plug and play. We called it plug and pray for a reason. All right. What were we talking about? How do we get on that tangent?
One of the questions I want to add on to it, so it's kind of a two-parter. One was how often do you update your resume? And my add-on would be like, do you have any like keywords that you would like to see or stand out?
I should be better. Hey, I just got an interview here at for computer science, so I guess I didn't do too bad. How often do I update it? Every time I apply for a job. That's honestly the answer. Because sometimes I will not apply for a job for years, and I've been applying for, you know, what, the adjunct, well, it's not adjunct, it's part-time instructor position now in Columbia. I'm in the pool here, and I've been applying for my, well, it'd be a step up, it'd be the senior director of IT. So I've been updating it a lot recently. But absolutely, there were many years where after I did that, I did interview at Disney once and realized that I couldn't work for them before I even finished the interview or started the interview. And after that, I'm like, you know what, this is dumb. I'm wasting my time. I'm not going to go bother interviewing. I'm too far here. I have great benefits. I can retire when I'm 50 and get benefits till I'm 70, and I'm 47. So I far too, I'm much too far in to give that up. There's practically no amount of money anybody could throw at me at this point to get rid of that. So keywords, boy, I'm not great at, I don't know, you know, I'm trying to think of what I look for. Not industry buzzwords. There's like, if I see single pane of glass on your resume, I'm going to throw it straight and I'll probably put it in the shredder. It's kind of an inside joke. Single pane of glass is something that marketing people always like to say, and there's really no such thing. So if you ever hear it, it's a total lie. But yeah, single pane of glass means it'll put all your stuff in one screen in front of you, which is never going to happen because we have too much crap. There's too many different things to put in one place. Like if you really tried to put all of our management systems, you know, for our VMware environments and switches and routers and phone systems, what would that even look like? The page would be so convoluted you couldn't make anything out of it. So yeah, single pane of glass. I don't know, you know, it's hard for me to say. There's things, this is very vague. There's things that people who are in the industry know and will say, and there's things that aren't, and people that are trying to talk their way into a job are gonna say, like, and I can't tell you what that is. That's just, that comes from, if I had an example, I wish I could give you, but I guess you do something for long enough and you can just kind of pick the people out who just say the right things, or maybe they're just not good at communicating. But I don't know. I don't know how to say that any better. Being concise is really important. Like my resume is like 3 pages long and I think it's too long, but I cannot cut anything else out. Like without just cutting, and I mean, I have like my early jobs just like down to like 1 bullet point. Like I installed cable modems, like that was, or, you know, that was all, you know, whatever. But just as like a history. So, you know, it's give them an idea of how long I've been in the industry, I keep it. Yeah, I don't know, more like keeping it brief while properly letting the hiring manager know, like, what skills do you have without going too much into it? Like, don't make me read a novel because they're not going to read it. And a lot of times HR looks at it first, right? And HR is just looking for specific, like, you know, if there's a certain job you want, read the job description and put those things in there and don't lie. I never lie. Like people lie in their, you know, applications or their resumes and put crap they've not done. And I will know right away, and you are not going to get the job, and you're going to make the hiring manager mad because now you wasted their time, and maybe somebody who was a better candidate got on the chopping block. So yeah, there's no quicker way to get, and then you'll be blacklisted, right? So then if you apply for another job around there, like I remember that guy, he didn't even know what he was talking about. What a waste of time that was. Yeah, reading the job description is important, and sometimes there's those, you know, you had talked about those jack of all trades jobs. Usually there's something specific they want. Like we even have that with our sysadmins. Like one of my sysadmins is basically the architect. One of them is basically the Office 365 guy. One of them is basically the VMware guy, but they all have the same job description. It's exactly the same job description. So if you can find out, I don't know if you know, call the company, whatever, find out what it is they're really looking for. You know, they'll ask for, you'll see these job descriptions, I always laugh. They want you to be like a CCNP, which is a, you know, mid-level Cisco engineer, and an MCSE, and like a Linux admin, and like a phone, you know, admin. Like nobody knows all that. Well, maybe 1 or 2 people know all that, but like, you're not going to find that person like that. And you're probably not paying enough to hire that person to do all those things. Like each one of those is a specialization in and of itself. And we're just getting more and more specialized. Like those jack of all trades are going more and more by the wayside all the time. And with good reason. You can't do everything well, right? Like I just pretty much focus myself on networking, you know, LAN and wireless, and, you know, backend systems like, you know, that are kind of related to that, like DNS and DHCP, and just the basics of what I needed to know, how that integrates with the data center. And so I learned data center networking, and, you know, we don't do a lot of WAN, but we need to do some, like we're going to be doing like IBGP in our data centers now, you know, exchanging information between the data centers. I don't know, you're a network guy. Sorry, I don't want to get too deep into the networking since there's only one of you. More people should get into networking, darn it. Networking's fun. It's not sexy. Like I said, nobody cares about it, but networking is fun.
Yeah, my first networking I'm building is I like 12 years old, and my friend father had a little store, and well, you can believe it, all old computers, broken computers, had a lot of things to do. We just got everything, building new computers,
Yeah.
and just to play Colors Drive.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, I remember when I first started working here, like just, you know, a bunch of computer parts all over the place.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's how you got a computer. You figured out how to build your own, you know, it was just from the spare parts you could rustle up. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, how much do you think will change when quantum computing becomes more commonplace in networking and security?
I don't even know. I've been hearing about quantum computing for so long now. I keep wondering when and even if it's gonna become a reality. And
Same time we get the paperless office.
You read it, yeah.
we're getting there. We are getting there. I'm so glad, like, I can finally, like, you know, approve my staff time off, and, you know, we can put in our time off like on eTreeve now. Like we don't have to fill out. I mean, even until what, 2 or 3 years ago, we were filling out paper here. Yeah, paperless office. I don't know, man. And I don't even know I can't even hardly conceive what they'll do with that, like that extra bit. Like, I don't even know. That's not, those are the guys that are the really smart people. The ones that really come up with those ideas of, and come up with, what can we do with this, right? Like, I can learn these systems and how to, manipulate them. But the real brilliant guys are the guys coming up with the quantum computing and just with actual applications for them. Yeah, I wish I could answer your question better. Probably world changing though, at least if not more so than this computing revolution has been. I mean, and I can't even imagine what that would be. I mean, computers are so ubiquitous, like I think he was saying. I mean, we've all got one of these things in our pocket. And this is, this would have been the most 20, 30 years ago, would have been the most powerful computer in the galaxy. I mean, it's magic. I mean, this is newer than, you watch the old Star Trek from the 60s, and those are flip phones. It was like Next Generation had basically like cell phones, and they were bigger and more clunky than these things. Like, and they're all in our pockets. And I don't know, for better or worse, I don't know. Maybe the next revolution will be for better. I'm not sure. We can only hope.
I've been dying to put my 2 cents on it. It's come farther. The way you're describing it, that's about 5 to 10 years back. You can rent time on this stuff now. But the real question though is, what can you personally do different than you could do on a massive computer? And they were saying, like, we're talking a bit or qubit, whatever. If you just essentially want to play, if you like philosophy, like, you remember truth tables? Yeah, if you like sitting there debating, but why that stuff, if you're into that minutia, that's fine. But the biggest push they were trying to get at was password. So remember how you're trying, I was somebody's bringing up like anyway, what they basically were getting at was we could do on the fly cracking that way instead of having, well, I'm using SSH, it's secure, I use blah 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 cipher, doesn't matter, it's so fast, it's just that's what the main goal is. But
Well, that's why you have a lockout though.
But you and I,
or geo or locking down to geolocation.
We can rent stuff time on there. Just the real question is, what could you do different than you could do on your?
We don't know yet.
Exactly.
But no, they have stuff. They have suggestions.
Well, there's always the dark black parts in the Department of Defense that has got skunk works things going on 500 years out. And the thing is, if they released it to the public,
We'd have future shock.
you know?
And I think we will have some kind of a future shock event at some point.
They did one thing really interesting. So you might have seen a news article about it saying that they had quantum teleportation, and a lot of people were misreading it. But what they were describing was, and you're talking about a lockout. I'm not sure if we were talking about the same thing. They were saying was, if you send a message, and it's kind of like a replay hack of this, but the problem is if it was tampered in any way whatsoever, it can never be reconstructed ever, because it just cannot exist again. So that's one hell of a security net. So remember those old days where you put a seal on something, and somebody tampered with it, carefully, you can't do that. That was the other push too.
Any other questions? Go for it.
This might be a little bit off topic, but have you done anything interesting with like a Raspberry Pi or any?
I haven't, but some of my employees have. So no, sorry. That was after, I don't know, I had already had a few kids and whatnot by the time those were really kind of becoming more and more popular. I don't know, I just haven't had a application myself. Sorry.
For like a job applicant, would you prefer them to have more experience or the schooling or both?
I'll take experience.
Experience.
If I have to pick one of the two, I'll take experience, and I have both. But I mean, so when I started, there was no degree in networking, right? The only computer degree you could get was computer science, and I did not want to do programming. Well, there's computer information systems as well, and that's why I went CIS here, because I didn't want to take programming. Like legit, that was the reason. What one's less programming? Okay, I'll do CIS. And so I got to take like business law with, I don't know if you remember Jim McGarry, but oh my gosh, that was one of the best. Oh, he was such a great teacher. He's passed away a number of years ago now, but man, he was an interesting guy. And so I don't know, it ended up being a cool thing to take some kind of non-computer classes. But then my bachelor's is in network security and operations, network operations and security, or network security and operations. I can't remember which way it is. But WGU is a great way to go. I think like like community college, MJC, and then WGU for computer science students is a great route. And it was Dale and some of the other computer science faculty that pushed us in that direction. Some of my other coworkers and I in the WGU direction. It's basically, what would you call it? Knowledge based. So, or knowledge based. So I've been doing this a long time. So I was able to, in a year, do like 79 units, and which is a lot, and you shouldn't do that because I really burned myself out really hard, but I still was able to do it because you're basically proving you know what you know, and you get all these industry certs while doing it. And so for somebody that's new, if you don't know it, it's going to take you a lot longer, which it should, because you're learning all that stuff from scratch. But you'll end up with a degree and a bunch of certs, which is going to make you look really, really good. Because certs like, so it's a lot of CompTIA. Back in the day, I don't know if you remember the 90s, we would scoff at CompTIA. It was kind of a joke.
There's no Bell certified engineer.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's like, all you do is memorize. You know,
But
now the tests have gotten.
CompTIAs are legit. Like anybody that laughs at them now doesn't know what they're talking about. Like they're not up on it because they are legit. And it's really, those are great because you get a Cisco certification and you can probably feel your way around a Juniper network or, you know, whatever, but you're really only saying, I know how to do Cisco stuff. Like when you do CompTIA, you're saying that I know the general, like, I know the idea behind all this. And the idea is that if you know the, you know the OSI model, for instance, and you understand basic networking and how to subnet and things like that, you can learn the commands. All switches and routers are mostly the same now anyway. You can pretty much feel your way around. It's gonna be little differences, but yeah, I don't know. The experience, you can't replace that. And you can't replace somebody that's been there and done, you know, migrations. They've dealt with things being down at, you know, midnight. It's coming up to like 6 o'clock in the morning. People are starting to come to work and you've been up all night and you're just barely starting to get that firewall back up and running. And I've been there. And it gets really, really stressful when you know people are going to start coming to work and everybody's relying on you. It's not that just one person's computer is down, but thousands of people are not able to like do their schooling or do their job because your crap is broken. And boy, that's when you get it done, it's very exhilarating.
I think we all have stories.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
But what I've noticed is certifications really do help.
They do.
Absence of experience.
Yes.
And then once you're in the field, it depends on the boss that you've got. Your boss may, I'm not gonna pay for you to take the exam. Well, if you do it on your own, it will help you get the next job.
It's true. And so, yeah, here, I've never failed a test because they would pay for the test if I passed it. So I always made sure I passed it. And then I didn't do CCIE lab because that's, man, back then it was like $12.50 or something like that. And they weren't going to pay for it unless I passed it. And they say nobody passes CCIE exam, like hands-on exam the first time. So I'm like, man, I'm not even going to get a bump in pay. I'm not going to be out $1,200 for this because I wasn't planning on leaving. But yeah, the certs are very, very valuable. But do your education while you're young, because it's much harder to go back to school once you got kids. As we can both attest. What's up?
So if you've been in like the computer industry, the IT field for a while, would you consider that a person still needs to have a CompTIA A+ certification, or is that just to get yourself in there? And I mean,
The more you get,
I've been with computers since I was like 11, and
Yeah.
I built my own computer
yeah,
from scratch, and
Yeah.
I read the magazines from the store, the PC novice and all that.
right.
But would you consider that, like?
Probably not much.
Certifications in the past, but
How far in the past?
like a few years.
I guess it would depend on the cert. So things like Net Plus, like networking is networking. Like the layers are the same. Subnetting is the same. IPv6, I mean, shoot, even IPv6 has been around for 20 years now. It doesn't really change. A lot of the stuff we're doing in IPv4 to just make it limp along is just, we're just basically hacking the original intent of IPv4 to keep us going along and not have to completely migrate to IPv6, because for some reason people are scared of those big addresses. I don't know why IPv6 is awesome, but yeah, I don't know.
Like if they,
Real life experience is really, really important. And that's kind of the catch-22, right? You go to school and you get the certs, and how you get into, it's one of the reasons, one of my favorite things that I've done throughout my career is having the student employees that I've had and helping them start careers and, you know, get a good career going. The same thing that's been given to me, you know, I don't know what I'd be doing if it wasn't for this place, falling into it when I did. Huh?
You said musician.
What?
You said musician.
What
So
about-
if you were not going to be a computer scientist, then the other thing you do was musician.
I could have. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't start playing music until later, but I used to manage bands and whatnot back in the 90s. So it would have been something in music. I didn't know you were a music guy too, huh?
You do.
I was saying you got your Creed look like.
Like I have two experience to build networking. The first one is for my wife's office 5 years ago in Brazil. And 3 years ago, I built one dentist office here, a friend that built out the network. But well, I don't receive not for that. I just do it for friendly.
Right. And that's the thing, is you can't really put that on a resume so much. I
Yeah,
mean, you can kind of put
exactly.
it in the, what's the letter of no, wait, not the letter of recommendation. What's the other thing? The cover letter. Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
I think I've done this enough recently that I should remember, but
yeah, it's not
Um,
official, but well.
That's the hard-
It's like that, because we do all the night, we change all the computers on the office, and well, everybody's coming 6 in the morning to work.
little things like that could get you in an entry level position though, right? So if you know the right person, I mean, one of the reasons there was a bunch of people when I came in as a student, I mean, they were hiring people left and right. And one of the things that got me in was I knew Max. And one of the old guys that did Max, Dennis Larson, he wanted a student to do his Mac work orders for him. So he found out, oh, this kid can do my Mac work orders for me. Yeah, hire him. I want him to do my work for me. And so those little things like that, like if you can show that you can do those little things, that'll put you above the other person. Like the full-time job I got, I had a CCNA. The others, the finalists, besides myself, had an MCSE. Well, it was a networking position. So my CCNA is the thing that got me. That was the thing that pushed me over. So I guess to answer your question, the cert did kind of get me the job. It was the thing that pushed me over, and it was over another cert. And so that kind of answers your other question too. Like it was because of that position. Now that guy is the head of IT in Manteca Unified now, so he did fine too. But yeah, it was a specific thing. Like I had the cert that was needed for that particular job. If it would have been an operations job, he would have got that job 100%. I probably wouldn't have even applied for it, because being a Windows admin is, well, being a DBA is kind of my hell. But any DBA people, we need you. You're really important, but I don't want to do it. No DBAs. It's a lot of money. Yeah.
What's the database?
What?
What kind of
They
database?
have
don't-
to hybridize. Everybody remembers blockchain. Kind of, oh. Yeah.
Don't tell me tech. No,
I don't know.
no, that's under.
Oracle.
No, I will let you work. I will tell you that.
Oh, all of it from
I
even,
have never met predatory company.
oh, I agree with
We
you.
ran it at Foster's.
Yes, we got out of it too.
Yeah.
Yes, they are quite, and a lot of them are predatory.
Yeah.
And that's the bad thing about these companies. And I've seen multiple generations, you know, like when I started, Cisco was kind of a newer big player on the block, but they were still kind of the cool company. Well, and IBM was the old guys that were, you know, kind of stuck in their ways. And now that's Cisco. Now, I mean, they've become the old guys that are just kind of churning out the same thing, buying other people's tech and reselling it with their sticker on it. Huh?
Ubiquity.
Ugh.
I'm seeing that all over.
I don't like Ubiquity.
Yeah, I can understand.
Ubiquity just breaks on me. I don't care for it at all. We even tried it here to save some money for some point-to-point, like wireless links that we needed in a pinch, and I totally regretted doing that. I do not, yeah, not a fan of Ubiquity, sorry. If anybody's a fan, good for you, that's good, but I don't like them.
Kind of on, talking about certs and experiences stuff. How useful is a degree in college? How high of a degree would you recommend?
It is a loaded question. I'm in a weird position because like I said, I started before there was really even the degree that for what I was doing. So I kind of got away with not having to have one for a long time. I also got screwed in salary for a long time because if you're good and you don't have a degree, somebody will hire you and they will underpay you.
Mm.
And they'll use that as the way that they can underpay you. It happened to me over and over. You really kind of want everything. It's for yourself, not because that's what's going to get you hired, but you're going to get treated better that way. And how high of a degree do you need? Like, do you need a master's if you're not going into management ever? Probably not. I can't see a master's ever being required for it. It may be some crazy, Lawrence Livermore job where you're working, and I don't know. That's outside of my arena. But any job I've ever been involved with, I mean, my job doesn't even require a master's. Like my boss's job doesn't even require a, so that's the senior director of IT doesn't even require a master's. It's just it's preferred. So it kind of just depends on how high you aspire to go. Or some people really like going to school. If you like it, you want to do it just to gain the knowledge, it's not going to hurt you. I'll tell you that much.
And then ask your employer what their reimbursement is.
That's true.
They paid for it. They said, well, then you're cautious. Well, then that never happened.
They even pay for a certain amount of hours here, and it's WGU. Another good thing about WGU is it's really cheap, and you won't put yourself in a crippling debt when you're just starting out. I think it's like $3,000 a semester, right? I should know probably since I was a recent student, but
The state does as well too. They'll reimburse you for, I think like 2K or.
if you work for the state,
Mhm,
do you work for the state?
I just started recently.
Okay,
so
cool.
Go up the ladder.
You should, public,
I'm not
it's,
to yet, but. I'm
but
just
you're
not-
in, which is a thing, like, and right? I can tell.
I've been figuring out those classes like.
Getting in is really, really difficult. And so once you're in an environment, yeah, you can,
They want they want me to do something else, but.
Are you
I-
union there?
Hmm?
School in the state, are you union or no?
Yes.
oh, good.
So do you get more pay versus say, I'm sure you shop around, you look at other people, like would pay more than say, private company?
Pays not very good. I'm just an
No.
office tech.
You don't
so,
take
no,
you
I'm-
don't take public jobs for the money in your paycheck.
No.
You take them because you want the other benefits. You want the good health benefits. You want
Yeah.
weeks off, instead of days off.
I get weekends. Plus, since I'm in a low paying job, that's why they'll pay for your schooling. They'll
Oh,
pay
that's
for-
cool.
There's so many IT classes, networking, cloud computing.
Take advantage of that.
Oh, I'm staring at him. I'm like, I'm gonna.
Do it. And we need more women in IT. Like women in IT you can write your own
I'm
ticket.
thinking about
You
applying.
really
There's a
can.
whole Telework ones in SAC.
Oh, that's what you want to do. Yeah.
Just
Working
to get in,
telework is where it's at.
get in.
I mean, I love telework. Some people, some of my employees like coming in every day.
Yeah.
Most of us don't, though. It's working where you need to be, just working. If I wake up at 6 o'clock and I look at my email and I do something, I do it. Like I don't know, the whole kind of way we work is changing. And unfortunately, I think there's kind of an old guard that you need to have your butt in a seat. But that's not your job. My job is, to get a certain amount of work done, to get these projects done and make sure these systems are running. I don't care where you're at, or I don't know. That hopefully COVID and everything really helped push that idea forward. I mean, this institution was incredibly anti-remote work, and we're just about to where we're going to have an agreement with CSEA where they can work, part-time, like officially, which I never thought I would see that ever. I feel like I'm in an alternate dimension that's even a possibility. I mean, it was so frowned upon, incredibly so, unless you're, huh?
Somebody else against it die or something?
No, they were afraid everybody was going to die and we all needed to work from home for a while. So and that was the only way to keep the college up. I mean, boy, one of the things I'm most proud of in my career is we had like a week and a half. And we had zero downtime to move everybody remote. And that's insane. So I mean, you know,
Think about that, how many users was it?
thousands.
Yeah, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, it's that however many active students there are, I don't even remember now, which we're working on a project to identify our active students, but so I should know that. But and counting adjunct or part-time instructors, it's something in the ballpark of like 3,000 users because we have a ton of part-time instructors. That was a lot of people. Luckily, we were ready for it. You know, we could support thousands of SSL VPN clients, but there was a political no-no to have VPN. There was a form you had to fill out and all this red tape. All we had to do was turn a switch on and basically make it all the users have access to VPN now. And suddenly it went from nobody can do this to everybody has to do this right now. And yeah, we were already in the midst of a Teams integration to get everybody on Teams and SharePoint online. And so there were all these things that were just kind of already falling into place. We had to bust out Jabber, which is so I can have my what's it called, a soft phone. So I can actually have my desk phone, you know, on my iPhone. So Dale can call like my extension 7912 and it'll ring on my phone, just like, you know, it's a normal phone call. So all these ways, so, you know, we have all these published numbers and people needed to be accessible from home, you know, as if they were in the office. So all these things had to happen. And that was the busiest week and a half of my life. I don't know how we did it. It was it was really smooth.
On other businesses, it's like their top line is going, you know, some companies recover.
Well, and we were doing it because I sent all my employees home early because there was talk of quarantining everyone. And one of my employees had just come back from Asia and had gotten sick. And I'm like, dude, we can't have my whole department get quarantined. Like the school will shut down. Like I could see what was going to happen. And like, they're going to need us really, really bad. And I'm like, I might get in trouble for this, but everybody's got to go home. Like, you know, and then like a few days later, they sent everybody home. So obviously everybody was following my lead, but yeah, there was a little bit where I'm like, dude, I can't have everybody getting quarantined, you know, and inaccessible for any amount of time. Like, we're gonna have to keep this place up and running, and we did. It was pretty awesome.
A lot of places shut down.
Yes, they did. No, we were better off. So the vultures came, I mean, almost immediately.
Yeah.
Anytime there's a crisis like that, the vultures are going to circle.
High-paid consultants, they come, let us solve your problem.
And I'll never forget, there's one guy called and was like, well, it sounds like you guys are better off than we are. Maybe we should hire you. I'm like, yeah, maybe we should.
It sounds like that you set up a program, whatever, did you have to write documentation?
Not me personally. That's generally a function of that. We'll write IT-based documentation, but you don't really want your techs writing the knowledge bases for the users. You generally want, if you don't have tech writers specifically on staff, it's a lot better to have your service desk personnel do that because they're more customer facing. If you have a tech write a knowledge base article for an end user, you're going to get a knowledge base article for a tech. Right? Because we have a different view. It's just how we are. We have the inside view. We don't have the outside view. So yes and no. Since we've started doing a lot of this, we use a program called ServiceNow, which integrates ticketing and requests and knowledge bases and all kinds of other things. It's a really pretty great product. And that's a specialization in and of itself you can get into is service delivery and its applications. It's quite lucrative. Actually, you can make a lot of money doing it because that's a whole thing is service delivery, right? It's not just first in, first out. There's a whole, and it was actually ironically Disney that kind of spearheaded this called ITIL. What does it even stand for? IT, shoot, I don't even know. It's basically about service delivery though, and a methodical way to deliver your IT services to your users. A whole framework. That's something I would love for us to teach here. Actually, I think it would be very beneficial. I'm a huge believer in ITIL.
There's enough companies around here that keep growing.
I agree.
And they need, it's like, it's hodgepodge.
So that's what I'm gonna push for if I get in here. Let's try and create that class. I'm already ITIL certified, so
We just need more people.
we do need more people. We need more people everywhere. Because
Yeah.
how many full-time CS instructors are there now?
Whereas we're down to 4.
Wow.
We were at 8
I know.
many years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and the only thing, you know, like the advanced Linux class.
Yeah.
Some of the advanced security. We have to teach the beginning programming and the next level programming because that's where the bulk of the students are. We don't have the bandwidth to teach these other classes. You know, can't teach advanced Linux. I got an advanced Linux lab and
That hurts. We need advanced Linux.
yeah, I know.
It's where it's fun.
You gotta do what you gotta do with,
Yeah.
and this is academia, this is ivory tower, and you know, it isn't. Why, it is a slow boat somewhere. It's been going since 1921. And it will keep going long after I'm dead, so it's, who knows what changed, you know, and you can. Maybe,
Yeah.
yeah. It's hard to do.
Yep. Pretty much. I've gotten used to
What's in
that.
front of you, and you just do the best you can.
That's right. Yeah.
When
Wow.
I first started teaching Linux here, I had a leftover server. That was it.
I remember that.
It was like.
Is that that's in my office, right?
Yeah, it was over at the one closet in Magic Land.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my
That
office.
was the Linux box. I used to teach one little tiny box.
I remember.
Coming from a computer room in Foster Farms with a lot of,
Yeah.
and I go, well, I can make it work.
Yeah. So that's what I'll be looking at too, because I've got 2 big old data centers here in Columbia and
Yeah,
would be going to exactly the same situation pretty
yeah.
much. But that's all right. I've had plenty of time to play with the big toys and
Yeah.
let somebody else do it.
Have you been doing any free BSD with your job?
Oh gosh, not for a long, long time. The last thing I probably did was, oh my gosh, and this is gonna date me. When when spam first started becoming a thing and a problem, so that dates me right there. I created our first spam filter from a FreeBSD box. It ran, oh man, running like postfix and a program called Spam Assassin, which I think is basically the brains of like all the spam filters that are out there today still. And oh man, there was another program or two that would kind of integrate with it to do some neat things. Huh?
Spam House and Spam Assassin.
Spam House wasn't Spam House an identifier that would score?
They're essentially like blacklist.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. Yes. I think it would check those, but that was part of Spam Assassin, is it would check their score. But there was something, I can't remember what other bells and whistles I'd set up. There were a couple neat things, but boy, I think that's the last time, because then Linux started becoming much more prevalent and a lot more mature, and Ubuntu changed things a lot for end users. Like Red Hat it's for the end users as to what Red Hat is for servers, right? Red Hat just basically took over the server area in industry, and Ubuntu just really for people who wanted to run Linux on their desktops, that was the thing. I mean, why would you run anything else? I mean, I tried a bunch of other things, ones where oh man, there was another one that you had to build your own kernel. And yes, it was Gentoo. Oh, I hated Gentoo.
This guy's claiming hate.
Oh man, well he is smarter than I, or more patient than I guess. I don't know what, but
That isn't wrong.
oh, it sounded so cool.
Yeah,
and in
the machine
practice-
was really, really fast.
Oh sure. No, everything is just fast. Just buy more cores. What?
You compile the kernel. exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it better run fast if you compile that thing exactly. I mean, it's almost like a purpose-built machine at that point.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand why people do it, but I don't know. I got to a point where I just don't want to tweak on anything anymore.
Previous, in the early days, like better than Linux.
It was.
I had Linux 0.99 kernel on floppies. And I had to send back a box of floppies 3 times because they were corrupted floppies. So you get, there was about 60 of them. You get to like 59 and all of a sudden there's a bad floppy and you gotta start.
I remember that. I installed Windows 95 on floppies. Oh, man, that's,
No fun. No.
it was not fun, no.
Yeah.
So one thing you should know about IT is no matter what you're in, what industry, they don't want to spend money on IT. Nobody wants to spend money on IT. And so that's kind of a job that we've been trying to do recently in IT, is to help kind of make IT a partner with the industry. Like we've tried to make ourselves a partner with the colleges as opposed to a utility. Because there's a lot we have to offer. There's a lot that we know that they can use that only we know, and we even know like that you can do that, right? There's so much with the data now. Again, like it being data, everything's data driven. We have so much to offer. If we can sell ourselves to become like more of a partner with the whatever it is, whether it's a bank or a school or whatever, an art gallery, you know, you can use IT to your advantage, or they're going to use you as a utility. And your life is going to be a lot better if you're a partner with them. If they can start to see the actual value that you're giving them, that you're providing, you then become something, you're providing something to the company instead of just being another debit. Right? Business value. And that's one of the big things about ITIL is providing value and always, and what is it? Continual improvement, right? And that's something that, you know, has been kind of a philosophy of mine anyway. So it fit in right in with my own personal philosophy. You don't have to get from 0 to 100, and you can't get from 0 to 100 right now. If you can get from 0 to 1, that's improvement. And once you're at 1, then get to 2 and get to 3. You can't, Rome wasn't built in a day. And, you know, so, and I have been guilty of this as bad as anybody. And it's something that I've gotten a lot better at defeating and kind of trying to lead my area department in this way, as you don't have to get, you know, say you want to get, you know, to a certain place. Well, it doesn't mean that you can't get a win. Like, okay, well, I want MFA, but I need to move my SSO to Azure. Well, moving SSO to Azure is a huge win. And that doesn't mean that you're there yet, but that's a piece that you need to do. And that's a huge win. And keeping these things in small chunks will keep you sane. Because if you see, you know, a data center migration, something that we're doing right now, I mean, that's swapping out all the storage, all the compute, which if you're not familiar with the term compute, that's an industry term for basically the processing and RAM. It just sits in the data center, right? You don't have just one server that just sits there. And you don't have an AD server that sits there and does AD, and a mail server that sits there and does mail. You just have a crap load of storage and a crap load of RAM and a bunch of CPU, and your VMware environment or whatever it is just utilizes that, what it needs to take advantage of that process that it's running. Even micros, we have a lot of microservices now. I don't know if you've heard of that, but just not even running a full OS, it's just running a very, very, very small service. And so you just have RAM, CPU storage that sits there and waits to do work, to take care of workloads for you. And it's just, it's not a pet as much as it is it's as cattle, and we treat our servers like that too. You can have auto scaling servers. So, you know, say registration, you know, the server is going to be, registration server is going to be obviously much more highly utilized when reg comes up. Well, maybe it automatically runs a few more instances of that service, and then when it doesn't need it, don't need to be spinning those, you know, its wheels all the time, and boom, it kills those services. That's the kind of thing that we're doing now, instead of, you know, back in the day, you needed oh man, you got to buy a box and set up Windows or Linux or whatever, and I mean, clone the config and get it. And now it's just the click of a button once you have your environment set up. Now it's just doing a bunch of work up front, right, to get your environment set up, like if it's OpenShift or you know, whatever kind of environment you're going to be running, or VMware or Hyper-V or whatever it is. Yeah.
But you probably heard a bunch of buzzwords. You don't know what those buzzwords are?
Ask questions if I'm talking. Yeah, you guys are about to graduate, so sorry. I'm
them up.
Yeah.
That's where the jobs are. That's what you guys are doing, is cutting it.
We are.
It's that the fosters can't move to the cloud because there's no fat pipes. And they actually did it years ago. They did a feasibility study to see if they could get a pipe from Hurricane Electric over the hill into Livingston. It was gazillions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
They couldn't, there was no way. So there are companies that are stuck because there is no bandwidth. As that changes, it all comes around and says, let's get rid of people and let's push it into the cloud. And then they realize that's even more complex.
I was gonna say the cloud, that doesn't necessarily mean you hire less
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And then what if
can't
you?
find the talent to do that? And that's makes it even more expensive.
Yeah, we've been very slow to move to the cloud for one reason above anything is, and we knew this was gonna happen early on, is there's a reason they make it so easy to put your data in their cloud. Have you ever tried getting your data out of the cloud? Like even in Google, like have you ever put like a Word doc in Google? It changes it into that whack format that it has that only works in Google. And if you have to try and get that document back to Word, it's a massive pain. I know because we used to back up all our stuff on Google Drive back in the day, and then we had to get all of our docs out of it, and it sucked. And it's really expensive to get your data out. They will let you put your data in, yes, and there's a reason for that, because now they have you. They have your data, they have your business, and they can basically charge whatever they want. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, drug dealer tactics is how we used to joke around of, you know, first time's free. And then they're going to, once you get hooked, they start, and that's what's happened. I mean, and I'm not, we're doing a lot of cloud migration right now. We're moving our Active Directory to the cloud. We're moving our DNS to the cloud. There's a lot of services that belong in the cloud, but I don't know if our student data belongs in the cloud necessarily. Our backups, one of our backups belongs in the cloud to follow the 3-2-1 strategy. So you're supposed to have what, 3 copies and 2 different locations on, or what is it?
For disaster recovery.
Yeah. So we're getting into disaster recovery here, but yeah, doing backups in the cloud is almost not regulatory, but in order to follow that, unless you have a bunch of separate data centers, you're going to have to put your backups in the cloud, and they probably should be.
So I swear I heard you say OpenShift. I think it's paper.
Hmm?
Paper OpenShift?
No. If you do, it's minimal, but I believe OpenShift is open source.
The software, but that's the right next.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can run OpenShift on other.
what I was getting at with, because we see as a professional here, there's some things that I would like to know, like for example, how do you negotiate stuff like that? Like, because I'm used
You
to.
get 3 vendors and let them battle it out.
So that.
Or-
This is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
You do.
yeah.
But here you can't actually let any vendor know what the other bid is. It's against the law.
Yeah.
We're also lucky enough now to have, we have state contracts. So they'll like companies like CDW, if you've ever heard of them, will have a contract with the state that basically says, this is the lowest price. You don't have to go out and get 3 bids. You can just buy it from us. But what you do, so when I first got into this job, our Cisco renewal was up for our voice infrastructure. And they were raising the price like a lot. But we really like our Cisco voice infrastructure. But they also know that we have really talented people. So basically I threatened that we were going to migrate to, oh man, what is it now? What's the open source PBX? Asterisk, thank you. That's it. Yeah. So I basically threatened that we were going to move to Asterisk. And she gave me a super fat discount.
We did the same thing at Foster.
Oh,
It's going to charge not by CPU, but by 4. And we're running. big IT.
Ooh. I remember when they started trying to change to core, that was not
And
nice.
and basically, IBM, we brought in the Oracle reps and the IBM reps. And we had the Oracle reps watch the IBM presentation of how they can convert the entire enterprise over a weekend onto DB2.
Oh,
with a
wow.
proven track record. That pricing never happened.
That's funny.
So is it normal, both of you guys are saying that, I'm assuming you guys were some mid-level manager or something, is it normal for your position to do the actual bargaining, negotiating?
I don't know if anything is normal in IT.
No, it's a standard practice. There's a culture in the company in which you work. And some companies are more predatory and some they'll burn people out and they don't care. And they're gonna get the best deal no matter what.
Yeah.
And they don't care about their relationships they have with the sales rep. And then there's other companies that want to maintain those relationships and make things beneficial for both companies in the advent of downtime and service level agreements.
Yeah.
So that's, it has to do with,
But you're allowed to negotiate those. And even if,
well, at Foster, we were allowed to negotiate anything.
I mean, so if you're, so now you're getting into like business law. So anybody's allowed, you're allowed to negotiate any kind of a contract. So even though like I'm not an authorized signer, for instance, like my boss has to sign that contract, or even his boss, I'm not sure. No, I think he's an authorized signer. I can get the contract set up and, you know, so both parties agree, although he's the one actually signing the contract. I'm the one with the industry knowledge that's in there and doing the negotiation with our Cisco rep. It wouldn't even really be appropriate for him to do that because he's not on the ground. You know, even I'm not in the weeds myself, but I'm close enough to them to know what I'm talking about.
that's the way I support was you being an advisory role and then the money being countered out to do the actual stuff. So you're saying that you're allowed, because it sounds like both of you guys were like, no, we do it all the time. We need it.
It depends on the scale.
It depends, and it depends on the company and on the project. So the answer to your question is
It
yes.
depends on how much.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, anybody's authorized to, anybody can negotiate a contract. Whether you sign that or if it's a legal contract that's signed, anybody can negotiate. But I mean, Cisco, I don't know, I played hardball and won, I guess. It was,
Yeah, and then there's a standard. Yeah. There's a saying, Foster, you never get fired for buying anything.
in my day, there was the same saying that said you never got fired for buying Cisco.
Yeah.
That
you know,
is,
it's a saying, so there's a culture there too.
it's, and we have gone away from Cisco somewhat. And it's always a little bit dangerous. We've got some open source switches and I don't have that level of support, right? So I have my guys that are awesome and I trust, but we don't have that security blanket. And we're going away from that because, not because they can't do it, but because I don't think it's fair to their employees. I'm a very pro employee rights, you know, I'm kind of a weird manager, you know, a lot of managers here are trying to try and, you know, squeeze blood out of a turnip. And I'm exactly the opposite. I think you get the best out of your employees by treating them well. Also, that's just, I'm not going to do that. I couldn't do that. That's not my personality. But you get loyalty, you get people that are going to stick around, you just get harder work. If you screw people over, they're going to screw you over. And
Foster,
when they're in the middle of the data stream, you really don't want to make those people mad.
Still there, Foster's had a policy, no open source.
Oh, heathens.
So, little pilot projects that I ran were successful.
That's so funny that you were so
And
open source.
The thing is, you know, I'm just running all open source. They didn't know any better. You just change the issue tag to make it look like Windows.
I
Nobody
love that.
cares.
That's
They're
awesome.
gonna audit. Well, that was in the day where Foster said if two people knew the job, one of you could be fired.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, a lot of that.
I want two
changed.
people to know everything.
Yeah, that's kind of what's.
Redundancy is the
Yeah.
best thing.
Once I quit, job went to overtime and all of a sudden I hired more people.
Oh, imagine that.
Yeah.
That's
They were getting-
funny. I bet they were putting in a lot of overtime.
Yeah, like prairies.
Oh, so was there an exodus at that time?
Yeah, in 2005, the labor laws changed in California. Where if your job was maintenance, to keep the lights on, you were to be hourly, not salary. And if you
Oh,
were hourly, you could charge overtime at time and a half.
I didn't know
Your
that.
Salary would have tripled.
I was already here in the union at that
Yeah.
point, so I had no idea that changed.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's good for IT people, because yeah, they'll work us to death. And you don't want to work for those people. Like, you know, early on in your career, I took these jobs, I knew it wasn't going to work out, but like my first network admin job, that wasn't even hardly a network admin, but it was a job title that I put on my resume, and I totally, you know, was underpaid terribly. And
You learned a
but
lot.
it was my first full-time job and I learned a lot and I got that network admin on my resume. And I wasn't even, like I said, really doing networking. Like, you know, I cleaned up like layer one, you know, I cleaned up cabling, you know, that was as networking as it got. But yeah, they will chew you up and spit you out if you let them. And it's a company culture, you know, you're gonna have to look at Glassdoor or, you know, whatever, right? Isn't Glassdoor?
Glassdoor, Dice.
Yeah, yeah.
And then salary ranges, you know, there's high paid consultants that come in and Foster's had all their job descriptions lined up with mainframes. So there was nothing modern in the client server.
I remember
job
those days.
descriptions. So they had to go through and rewrite all the job descriptions and HR hated us because they go, oh, this isn't what I do. Not even close.
Yeah, we're trying to do that right now again because
It's not
ours,
easy.
it's not easy.
And it makes things really, you know, just job descriptions, the most important line is other duties as required.
Oh, yeah, that's the joke, right? Yep,
Every
yep.
job description.
absolutely. That is the job description. Yeah,
But yeah, I'm trying to get that dialed in with a solid description, then you can tie the salary to it. And what I saw up and down the valley is your degree is a salary point.
yes,
And without the
Absolutely.
degree, you don't get that salary.
Nope,
point.
that was
And
exactly what I
if you
found.
Want to get into management, they won't let you.
yes,
Because you don't have the degree to get through the glass.
or teaching. Well, I mean, teaching rightfully
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, in my case, I got the master's and the boss said, no, we're not gonna give you the raise, so I started teaching. Oh, this is way more fun.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, there's a lot of things nobody tells you about what it's like in the workforce.
There are.
There's like, where do you go to, what's it really like out there? Well, I can tell you stories. And you wanna, I think the biggest piece of the puzzle is you want to find a company's culture that matches your personal value.
Yeah.
If you're an aggressive, I want money over everything,
You'll get it.
go work for one of those types of companies where your personality and personal culture matches with the big culture.
But save up because they will burn you out
Oh,
at a
yeah.
certain point.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to find a company that has a culture you can agree to.
Yeah.
And you've all heard the wonderful story about mission statements. You'll find a company, this is a mission statement, and then start asking around, look on LinkedIn and find out, oh, they're not living it, they're just talking it. That's a disconnect right there. You might not want to go there, but if everything underneath the mission statement is being worked out in the day-to-day, that's a different story. That means they're true to their internal job scope.
Yeah. That's why, you know, I used to interview. So maybe I'll tell my Disney interview story because it's very well tied into that. So this was probably 10 years ago ish. We had just installed the new LAN here. And it's what's called a routed access network. And if you're a networking guy, if you know what a routed access network is, you don't have to because that's getting really deep in the weeds. All right, no problem. So a routed access network is it's much more complex, and without getting into networking too much, it restricts the broadcast domain to each closet. So historically, the network that I inherited, East Campus, was a big flat class B network. So what that means to you, yeah, legit. So the shop across the street would lose power. Everything on East Campus would go down for 90 seconds while spanning tree recalculates. And I was not going to have that on my network. So you rely on routing protocols to do that. And so if the switch here goes out, this building itself has 4 separate closets, which has 4 separate broadcast domains. Even more than that, because we have everything VLAN'd out, even segmented further, like access points are in their own VLAN, phones are in their own VLAN, your student workstations are in a different VLAN than like should be in Dale's computer, because staff and students are segregated. But so yeah, you isolate your fault domain. So things are gonna fail sometimes, and what you want to do is just isolate the failure domain to as small of an area as you can. So I had just done that. So it's really, really easy to set up a flat layer 2 network. You just put a bunch of crap in the same layer 2 network and you're done, and it just works and it talks. Well, when you do routed access network, you have to have routing protocols and have a much, much more strictly defined IP scheme. Josh and I think took 6 months, I'm not even joking, designing our current internal IP scheme. Because we wanted something that you could, well, without getting too networking centric again, that would keep the routing table at a reasonable size, because we were going to have we have hundreds of different networks running around campus, hundreds of different class Cs, which is separate networks. So anyway, I just got that done. It was just in, we're super proud of it. We got this great wireless network too, which uses a wireless controller. So that AP, all these APs you see, they are dumb. If you steal that, you take it home and it's going to flash at you, and that's all it's going to do. It's not going to do anything because it needs to talk to its controller. So it backhauls all the data back to the controller.
In a lock closet.
In the data centers, yeah. Which you couldn't even get to anyway, even if you had physical access. But yeah, it's about as secure of a thing as we have on our campuses. So I just got done with that. I was really proud of our network. We'd done really good, and I decided to, there's a job at Disney down south. We have a lot of family down there. I love Disneyland and I have kids, and I thought, hey, you get to go to the parks for free. That would be awesome. I would love that. And so I went down to LA and I walked in the door, and I will never forget. I walked, before I even shut the door behind me, I looked around. I'm like, I cannot work for this company. This company is like, it'd be like working for the devil. Like, this is the evil, media monopoly company. How can I work for this company? There's no way. I'm like, but I'm here. We came down here. Might as well do an interview. Why the heck not? I like interviewing. It's fun. So I go and talk to the hiring manager, and he's a super cool guy. We got along well. And then I go and talk to the engineers, and what they wanted me to do was design Disney Shanghai. And that's just design the network for Disney Shanghai. That's when I think it's up and running now. But they wanted me to design that. And so they're like, well, how would you design it? And man, I had just designed this network. And networking is networking. It doesn't matter if it's NJC or Disney. You segregate, it's all the same thing. It doesn't matter if it's, the Cat Building and the library and Morris or Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion. It's all just a bunch of data closets. Who cares? So I drew, I'm like, okay, here's basically like one network closet, and I would segregate, do all our different VLANs that I kind of went through, your wireless and your phone, and then, backhaul that to your main data center, to your core router, and then you got your wireless network, which has your controller in the data center, blah, blah, blah. So I go through the whole thing, and they're like, it's not going to work. I'm like, what do you mean it's not going to work? They're like, it's not going to work. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, your wireless clients, how are they going to talk to each other? I'm like, well, why do your wireless clients need to talk to each other, first of all? Second of all, they're all backhauled to the data center. They're all actually on the same subnet. Like, that's the thing that can talk on the network without any routing. And they're like, what? It's backhauled. They're like, this is not going to work. And this is when I probably, I probably wouldn't have said these things, or I know I wouldn't have said these things if I had any intention of taking the job. But I think I may have told them that they were doing things the old way, and Disneyland Shanghai was going to be a failure, and they were gonna, it's something along the lines of, you're doing things the wrong way. This is the old way. Like, you need to do things the new way, or it's going to be a failure. I think that's what I said. And basically the interview ended with them getting, I wouldn't back off. They wanted me to say, yes, you're right. I am the interviewee and I don't know what I'm talking about. And you guys are the gods here. Let me design the network how you want to design it, which I don't know why I'm even here. But the interview ended because they got up and left in a huff. That was the end. And so I just left. And it was awesome. And so then a few months later, Patrick, one of my employees, is like, dude, it's a good thing you didn't take that Disney job. I'm like, why? He's like, they just fired all their internal IT people and outsourced to India. And to even make it worse, you had to train your replacement to get severance.
I remember that.
You remember that?
And then figures that didn't work.
It didn't work because outsourcing does not work.
Yeah.
It's
bring people back in.
yes, they did.
Start all over.
Mhm. So yeah, after all that, and I got a good story to do.
So it was the whole lie the whole time.
And I always wonder, I know those guys today, they have to remember that because, you know, I've never had that happen in an interview. Like nobody's ever like disagreed with me. Like you're doing this completely, like that's never happened. They have to remember that. And I know that they realize at a certain point, oh crap, that guy knew what he was talking about. We were wrong. Because that's how networks are designed now. You don't design a flat network. That if anybody's doing that,
Yeah.
you don't want to work there. You know, yeah, I mean, for IT or not, like you just don't want to be there, you know, stuff happens, and a non-fault tolerant network like that would be all bad.
Would you like to come work on our machine? It's Visual Basic 6.0.
Oh.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, when you've got these things on your network, you can't have them fly. It's really obvious when the network goes down because this shuts off and then it reboots. And, you know, it's not just back in the olden days when you could kind of get away with taking stuff down at lunch because enough people wouldn't notice that Outlook was down for a second. You know, when it was more of a less of a business necessity and than it is now. Now if I can't do anything during the day. But yes, that I totally agree with you though, that culture is very, very important in finding the right fit.
I've got a couple good interview stories. I interviewed with Stan State, project manager job. And I have my PMI.
I thought you did. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a certified project manager and all that project. And I sat in the interview and I said, okay, what's this project about? I started asking them questions. And I said, you folks don't need me. You just need to communicate. And then you should be the point person because you are the biggest stakeholder. I taught myself out of a job. I don't want to sit here and do a job that's so dang obvious.
Yeah.
Do yours.
That's funny.
Because I knew what kind of culture that was gonna be.
Yeah,
That was gonna be not a pretty picture.
we need PMIs here. I wish we had them.
Yeah, it's that was the toughest cert I ever took.
I
It
bet.
was needlessly complex.
I took that training, but the boss at the time, he gave us the training like a week and a half before that cert was gonna be expired and you couldn't take that test anymore.
Yeah.
So I didn't even have the time, you know, you gotta like apply for it and all that. So I didn't get
Yeah,
a chance to take that
It
cert.
was such a high stakes exam that I didn't let it expire. I just said I'm retired. So it's still valid.
Oh,
And
very
then- but
interesting.
it's nice.
And you were technically retired from project management.
Officially retired from my PMI. The Project Plus and CompTIA
Yeah, I've got that.
tracks right with PMI.
Really?
Yeah, they work together. So when they.
That
talk
was
about
one of the
project-
harder ones.
Yep, when they talk about work breakdown structure, when they talk about the project plans, flows, it leads right into the PMI.
I think if I were doing my master's, I think PMI is part of their master's program, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Traditionally, qualified project managers.
That's
less
big
than
money.
2% unemployment forever.
Yeah.
But you have to have the right temperament.
It's a tough thing. Project
It is.
management is its own,
It's its own thing.
it is definitely its own thing. And it's
Yeah.
very necessary though.
Yeah, you can't be anybody's friend.
Yeah.
I'd say no to the big guy.
Yeah, like being a security guy, cybersecurity.
Yeah.
You're not going to be a lot of people's friend if you go, anybody interested in security?
Wait,
Oh.
wait, that's a trick. You're not supposed to answer.
Yeah, but yeah, you?
Me.
Nobody else? Only one cybersecurity? And that's a big industry. There's
Big money.
there's
I got
no
some
shortage of,
right now.
well, I mean, there's just all those, even just for schools, there's those FTC rules that we're having, we have a July 1st deadline that we've got to have like MFA enabled. You've got to have like security people, like every school. Like, I mean, it's becoming legislated now that, you know,
Where are they gonna find it?
It's all.
You're warm. We'll put you here. We'll train you. That's about what it's gonna end up being.
just says you have to have a qualified individual. It doesn't say how qualified, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's becoming more and more legislated. It's a thing. It's not just, oh, that would be nice to have. Like, you have to have that. Do you want to be a school? Like, you have to do this. Do you want to stay in business? It's not, something that's optional, anymore. And so that's why I was saying, the company can choose to make you a partner or just make you a utility. And everybody's life's going to be so much better if you're a partner with them, because like I said, we know stuff they don't know. We can see the things like how we can take advantage of what it is we do to make business continuity better, or whatever it is you're doing to make education better. That they're not even going to have the conception to think of, because they don't have that view. They don't even know it's a possibility, much less the idea to conceptualize what to do with the technology we have. So there's a lot more to it, than just keeping the lights on. You can just do that, but you'll get bored. I did. It's boring. You don't want to do the same thing day in and day out. Automation alone. I mean, if you're doing the same thing day in and day out, you got to be writing automation so you don't have to do it at least.
That's when you guys start out dating, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
when you get in a fight with your boss.
I don't get in a fight with my boss. But yeah, you had said something about, what would I tell my younger self, right?
Yeah, knowing what you know now.
Man, I don't know. I've been thinking about it, and I don't know. I've thought about that before too, and I don't know. It's a tough one.
Don't take 80 units in a year.
Yeah, don't do that. You're not going to need it anyway. Like you can do it in 2 years. It'll be fine. Yes, that really, I don't know if I've ever quite recovered from that 100%, man. I don't know,
Would you do it the same way?
I'd stay in the same job. I wouldn't leave. I don't regret staying here. Honestly, I don't know. Is it bad to say I would probably work less? I probably would.
It's a big issue.
I mean, and I have a good work-life balance now, but man, when I first started, we would put in so many hours, and it wasn't because nobody told me I had to. It was these cool toys, and there was this stuff to figure out, and there was just one more. We were having fun, and I mean, there's not many things that you can do for that amount of time, and it's still, you still have the fire that you still want to keep doing it, and then it's still something I like. So, but I don't want to tweak on it like I used to, and maybe just warning myself that would happen, because it took a long time. I mean, that was a childhood and young adulthood and middle adulthood of tweaking with computers and messing around with them before I was like, all right, I'm really good at this, but I don't like it as much as I used to, where like I have different hobbies now. Computers aren't my hobby, it's my job. And that's fine, because at the end of the day, at least it's still something that was my hobby. Like I chose it, it wasn't something I had to do. I could have drove a truck like my dad, took care of my family just fine, but I'm glad I took this path. It's taking care of me. I'm not too gray yet. My beard started to get a little bit gray, but were you gray when you were already gray? Foster's grayed you out, right? Yeah, I don't know what else. Especially early on, probably that, I learned fairly early on that you're not going to learn everything and to just focus on certain things, but you're not going to learn everything, and that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with not knowing everything. There's nothing wrong with specializing. In fact, you probably should. The guys I know that know everything, that's all they do, and thank God for them, because they're great employees to have. You love having those people that are just so dedicated and so into it. And hey, and maybe it was management that did it to me too. That'll probably do it. Nothing like an abundance of politics to, I don't know, to, what's the right word? Disillusion you a bit from, I don't know. Not that I'm disillusioned. I love this place. I want to teach here, shoot, I've applied for a higher position, obviously you don't do those kind of things if you hate it and want to go somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, You get older and you don't have the energy that you used to have, and you can't pick up things as fast as you used to be able to, or maybe you just don't care to pick things up as fast as you used to, or
But, the advantage being older and wiser is you know what's noise.
yeah,
You know
there's a
how to-
lot of it.
That's crap.
There's a lot of noise.
We'll look something else up, so you can keep up, it's kind of fun to learn the new stuff in Ansible and
Yeah.
I'm learning how to deploy KVM. It's
Oh, yeah.
it's a lot of fun, and it's like, I'm never gonna use it, but it's a fun puzzle,
It's like magic,
yeah.
isn't it? I mean, compared to how things used to be, it's like magic. So much
Yeah.
of it. It's, I mean, any sufficiently advanced technology is, appears magic to, what is that saying, right? But yeah, I mean, thinking about how simplistic things were and just being able to spin up. I remember the first time when we could spin up a VM at the press of a button,
Yeah.
like, dude, we used to have to put in so much work, much less doing a bare metal system when those were the
Oh, yeah.
days. But even just creating a VM, you had to set up the VM and give it the RAM and CPU and install the OS and do all that. And you could just hit a button. It was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Right? It is. It's really cool. I mean, I saw things in the 90s like streaming, I knew that was coming. But I could have never predicted VMs and the way data is being, manipulated and
It is being harvested.
harvested.
Third-party brokers and how they capture it all. It's like a dark art that nobody tells you how they do it.
Is a dark art in more ways than one.
Cloudflare is in the middle of it all.
Uh-huh.
They have a domain name system of 1.1.1.
Yep.
And it's screaming fast.
Oh yeah, that's one of the best DNS servers out there.
And they run logging off what gets pulled.
Yes, they do.
And they collect all this data, sell it off to the brokers.
It's still valuable. It's not, they're not reading your mind. I mean, getting access to what search terms you're writing in is, oh man, that's a whole other level. But even just your DNS history is incredibly valuable. So don't give away your data without good reason. I mean, unless you really like the TikTok. I could tell. I know my wife and daughter like the TikTok too.
Well, it's creepy.
I don't like it.
It will tell me things about myself like, oh, you have this skin condition? Oh, try this, try fish oil.
I know. No, my wife says the same thing. I'm like, and you think that's a good thing that it knows that?
Medically, possibly.
Yeah, and she's a health nerd too. So yeah, she gets all those things. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I would tell myself.
Fail fast,
Huh?
fail fast.
Fail fast? I don't know that I ever really failed at anything, at least big time. I mean, even
Because you had the control.
Dude, you're an ass because you're saying life is good to me and I haven't failed yet. I don't
no,
know.
like
I don't
it's
wanna write a
stuff
poem
in
and you get something.
what I mean in like professionally, like I can't think of many like big failures, professional or even like, personally, like huge failures. But what I was going to say was there's a lot of things that we've done that we don't have the philosophy that if we start a project, we have to finish it. Like if you get 25% or 50% done with the project and you realize this is not the thing for us, it's much better to just be, okay, scrap it, than just complete the project for the sake of completing the project, because you're wasting all that other time. Even if you're 75%, then you're going to waste the time using that product and you learned something. Like, there's a scientific factor to it too, is, you're trying out a new system, you're spending a lot of time setting it up. Well, it's not a waste of time. If it doesn't become production or even something in your test environment, it's still not a waste of time. Because at the very least, you've learned how to manipulate that system, how to set it up, and you've learned something that you don't want to use and why. And maybe that'll help you find the thing that's really going to make it for you. Yeah, I mean, we've done that. I can't tell you how many times. Shoot, I just got rid of everything in our old graveyard in Sierra. man, something called Cisco Mars. Oh, it was one of those single panes of glass that it was all your security stuff in one place and one screen. And it did nothing. But the marketing told you it did everything. It was the coolest thing. And so, yeah, if you want to get old timers, get their goat, mention Cisco Mars. And if they bought, because it was expensive too. It was one of the best marketing. After that, that's when I realized I'm not trusting Cisco's or any tech marketing at all. Like I need to see it in the actual product, not what the slides and what the marketing people say. Working for Front Porch and Sonora, we were developing, it was pretty next gen stuff then. That was early monetization of the internet. What Front Porch was doing was working with ISPs and using a layer 4 router to redirect the port 80 traffic, because that's all there was. There was not even 443. It was just web. You'd redirect that traffic to our box, and the ISPs could inject ads to the users, because the ISPs were saying, well, all these people are making money off this web that we're giving them access to. Why don't we make some of that money? And so it was really kind of, I felt like it was really nefarious and evil what we were doing, but it was also like my intro to networking, and I was learning a lot. But yeah, that was really old and interesting, and now everybody redirecting, a certain port back then was like, there was one switch that did it. It was a really big deal. It was a Jupiter, layer 4 switch. Oh my gosh, you can just reroute one particular port and that's it. That was high tech stuff. And they're still in business. Huh?
Are they still in business?
They are. So when I worked in San Diego, they ran out of money and had to close the San Diego office. We had an English office they had to close. And they only had money. I was QA then. So I would simulate like an ISP. So I had a bunch of BSD boxes that would simulate hundreds of thousands of users hitting our box with web requests. And so the programmers hated me because they'd have a new version of the code. They'd be like, all right, try it. And I'd hit it and it would break. Be like, it still broke. And that was my whole job. So I basically had like racks of stuff that would simulate, hundreds of thousands of users in an ISP environment. It was really fun. So yeah, that was, they ran out of money for that. And they only had money for the founders to keep the Sonora office open and 2 programmers. And I was the next one. So in the meantime, we actually I almost got to start my own .com. So me and 2 other guys tried to license the software. So I don't know if you've heard of Terra Networks in Mexico. It's like the big ISP in Mexico. They liked it. They wanted it. They were our customer. And so we were gonna buy it from them and sell it to Terra and work with them. And it just took the lawyers too long. By the time we got the rights to it, they had moved on. But I came really close to the .com pot of gold, because I'm sure we would have just sold to Cisco or something like that. But yeah, so then I interviewed here and they got some more money and they wanted to hire me back at the same time I had just gotten married. I'm like, I need to take the stable job, and I'm still here. But when I'm teaching there, I'm going to be up there once a week. I'm going to go visit Front Porch and say hello. Yeah. And Ryan Brady, right? In Columbia, the network guy in Columbia. Oh, Ryan's a really good, smart guy. His wife worked there too. And she was part of those meetings where half the people got laid off. And she was unfortunately one of those half that get laid off. But that's a thing that happens too, in private sector. Sometimes cuts happen and a lot of people get fired, and that really, really sucks. Like, it's not fun, even when you're the one that makes it. You make the cut. Oh man, it's still half the people you've been working with.
Because it will probably happen to you just in reality of the way business is. It's becoming so frequent.
Yeah.
Just keep your skills sharp.
You've got to.
Yeah.
Even to keep your job, you've got. This is a rare place here that is actually a union. Most places, it's at will and can get rid of you for nothing, which is I'm not a fan of. I don't like at will employment, but whatever. But I'm pro-employee, so like I said, I'm a weird manager. I'm not the typical
But you
manager.
know how you want to be managed.
Absolutely. Yeah, leave me alone and let me do my job. I feel like if I need to micromanage you, you don't belong in IT.
Yeah.
IT, especially at my level, so we're tier 3, what's considered tier 3, and that's the top tier. You should know your job. Like, when I was the senior network analyst, I pretty much did whatever I wanted. Like, I would just check with my boss to make sure what I'm thinking aligned with his priorities, and that was about it. And it always did, because we thought very much the same. But yeah, I mean, you've got to be a self-starter. You've got to be able to do it yourself. Like I was saying, I started to say, I've had students who come in and I tell them to do something, and then the next day they come in and like, oh, so what's that? Oh, you want me to still work on that? Like, well, did you finish it? Like, it's a different day, but you're still
Learning how to
supposed to
work.
be working on that like project, right? Like, you can't even get a wireless access point up and running. Like,
That's the kind.
those people didn't last long.
Yeah, they don't make it probate.
They do not make it through. Well, that was students. So students,
Yeah.
yeah, they, I don't know if they're in IT or not, but I've got a lot of students that have moved up, and Jake was one of the most recent. Shoot, I think he's still working for Amazon. And then now Corey's been my network guy for a few years now. But yeah, it's cool to have students that you see, like what was another one? Jake, and there was another one at the same time. I met him the last time I talked in person in one of your classes, actually. What was his name? Trevor.
Oh, yeah.
And I ran into him at Costco, and him and his girlfriend, and he was like, had just got a job at Modesto City Schools and was super psyched, and it was a pretty entry-level job, but it always feels good because I remember, man,
City and any of the school systems,
he's in.
you are gonna do it
Yep.
because they don't have enough people.
No, nobody has enough people.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so he's in, and so just to see that like brightness on his face, and
Yeah.
I remember how I felt when it started.
Yeah.
You've got like some trajectory in your life, and not just floating around, working
It's
pizza.
fun to see your students come around and laugh.
Yes, it is.
I'm running. Oh my gosh, look at you go, man. Go.
Yeah. No, I remember being, coming back, and Clement saying he thought I was his best, I was the student he was most proud of because Josh was his, most shining student, and I was Josh's, shining student. So therefore, like, I reflected greatest on him. And when Patrick, Pimentel had kind of eclipsed me, I was like, oh, now I know how he felt.
Yeah.
I remember that. It's a proud moment. Some people would.
Young kid came in and.
Not Furman, was it?
No, his name was Finale.
Okay.
And, he came in and I mentored him how to do the big system. He took to a flyer, and he left the company about the same time I did, but ended up at Microsoft.
Oh,
He's running all their high-end Oracle database,
oh,
of their business intelligence stuff. And said, yeah, he's got it.
Yep.
Fun guy. Can I pick your brain now?
absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, Patrick has gone so far beyond me.
Yeah,
Like,
it's pay it forward, folks. It's
and that's a
really
good
important
thing.
to
Yeah,
Pay it forward.
absolutely.
Help those around you, make them better than you.
It's one of the reasons I want to teach.
Yeah.
It's fun to pass it on, and
Yeah.
and to help people, get their careers going and started. I mean, you can only do so much, right? It's up to you to make it happen, but you also need help. You need people to give you ends. I mean, it's so much being at the right place at the right time. I mean, taking advantage of the opportunities when they show up. I always did. Every time there was an opportunity, I would take it. I mean, one of my early jobs, I worked for a Chinese company in City of Industry in LA. I was the only native English speaker. And that was that first, network admin job. And it opened my eyes in so many ways, or other than technology. I learned a lot there, and it was my first full-time job, but also I was exposed to like different cultures and kind of people that I'd never been in, food. And it was a very enlightening experience in many different ways, more so than just professionally, that it changed my life for the better. And so, really early on, I kind of went a lot of different places, and the .com days were pretty fun. I settled in and stayed here, but you'd try a company, and if it didn't work out, you'd I remember I worked at UOP. It was the worst job I ever worked at. I couldn't stand that place. And so back then you could just quit a job. Like I quit on Wednesday and had a better job like on Friday. And I mean, that was the 90s. Don't do that now. But that you could get away with that kind of thing then. And I'm not the kind of person that quits a job before I have another job, but that job was so abysmally bad. I'm like, oh, there's another job. And there was. I got into networking. Like, I mean, literally 2 days later, we almost had another boom.
Yeah.
I feel like we're at the end, like kind of at the cusp of another one of those.
Yeah, there's something you can feel it's something's gonna happen.
Yes.
It's gonna play out.
Security is going to be part of it. That's for sure.
Yeah,
It's got to be part of it. The
Yeah.
stakes are just so high.
yeah.
We don't even know how high those stakes really are. I mean, how valuable. I don't even know what the real value of our data is. I mean, I don't even know if it's calculable. And if it is, I think it's just a guess, really, the value of it. And it's just growing. And the dependence on all of it. I mean, we've gone from, in our time, something that's nice to have to absolute business dependence that no one can run without us.
And
It's,
just imagine what happens.
huh?
Just imagine if it goes down.
No, I don't do that.
10 minutes.
I don't do that. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't afford. That's why I build redundancy everywhere.
Find a grocery store.
For real though, you've been to the grocery store where you can't check out because the computers are down, right? Because I have.
What's it? How do you count change without a computer?
No kidding. Anything else?
I'm good. You guys good?
Yeah.
Give you 30 minutes or so to kind of work on your projects. And Abraham, I know you did you get your account set up yet for the server bot?
I'll talk to them, tomorrow.
Oh, okay. You're gonna do it online?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now, you guys, did you get your VM thing squared away where you can get in the box?
Yeah, we're gonna go over that. We haven't really turned that on yet.
Okay, so can you get to the bottom?
What are you guys doing for your projects?
Okay, all right.
Sorry,
try.
Yeah, nice to meet you. What's your name?
Open the
Thanks. What do you want to get into?
And then.
Yeah. Oh, very interesting. Okay. Like Internet of Things. Oh, okay. Okay. So like Internet of Things. That's a huge, and there's no. Oh, no, absolutely. It's growing massive. I don't know how I feel about it, but it's there. I mean, my new oven is on my Wi-Fi and so is my thermostat. And I don't really like that necessarily, but yeah, I don't know.
Something like this.
Kind of weird to change your temperature when you're out of the house.
Yes,
By
but
the
it's-
time you get, it's convenient,
It
but it's
is
weird.
convenient, yes, or like I'll get an alert that, yeah, okay, so programming those kind of things, that's awesome. Yeah, it is weird and I like it and I also don't like it because then I know somebody else knows what my temperature is and then I get those things of like, oh, you've been heating more than you were last year. I'm like, yeah, I got solar, man, so I'm better.
I used to work in tile and stone, that's been my main thing.
Oh,
I'm trying to get over this. But you can actually program your bathroom shower pan floor if you use a heating system to where it can turn on in the morning, like you can. Oh, I'm gonna be awake at 6 AM. Oh, my shower floor can be heated. My bathroom floor can be heated. It's a little weird.
Yeah, that's a good thing for us.
I have people stepped in my shower and been like, ooh, feet cold.
So you have this?
No, God,
Oh, no. Okay, I was gonna say, oh my God. It's jealous.
but I've never,
Okay, okay.
I am not, I have no money. Maybe some.
I still don't have any money. So you're from Brazil?
Yeah.
My great grandpa was from Brazil.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, well, you talk about the bad companies. Well, I worked 5 years in one bank.
Oh, that's about
The
bad.
when the button in my mind say Oh, well, now, I have a client on my table. I am, well, law specialist. I work for out the author, so, well, I really try to work with the cases. I give everything. Basically, it's going for almost micro spots. Yeah, yeah.
And it's,
And well, the woman of the mom, my table, don't have kids.
So much.
Yeah,
You were great.
Oh, thank you.
Really great public speaking.
Oh, thanks. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. That's what I want to do. Yes. So what do you want to get into?
I'm not totally sure right now. I've been doing the program. I just got my state job a couple months ago, so they're encouraging us to move up. So I'm like,
No.
I don't want to do the inspector route like they want me to do, but I saw the IT and the state does reimburse you. And I'm like, I'm there, I've got those classes, I'm gonna.
To like it, you got it, I'm serious, like, women, I got it, so many. And.
I think I'm gonna take a networking class, because like this class is making me a little. It's gonna get more into networking. So we'll see. Yeah, they have a bunch of classes like networking, cloud computing, and I'm like, those are totally interesting.
I don't know, and once you learn that, it just. Being a snap one, like iOS will change and everything else, because that, but like routing and switching works the same. And that's one of the good things about it, so just, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, like. I'm so proud of like, I just find like we're looking at redoing the network and all we're gonna do is switch out the devices. My design is awesome, and so now we get to just like, now my predecessor or.
No.
Yes.
fine.
He doesn't have to do all that, like, it's still like. But I love just. design, it's fun. But yeah, no, I'm glad to see more women getting.
Oh, yeah, I started this many years ago. I had maybe one girl in my class and I had. Still really don't make this class. I think we have maybe one other.
One female. Our. Service desk is all of this now, but other than that, it's male dominated, it's, it's just for gay people. They're just having work, it's not one here. And happy to have some diversity in my team, really. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna do, and then the other ones are trying security.
Yeah.
If you can make things more secure and make it.
Okay, let's do this.